All right, Monday night, Dieter's in the house. We got a lot to talk about. The Niners get another win. They're 2-0. 1-0 with Brock Purdy, 1-0 with Mac Jones. The Cardinals are up next. We're going to talk about it. Come aboard. It's the Krug Show with Dieter Kurtenbach stopping by. We got a lot going on. Here we go. Often running Thursday night. Normally Thursday night. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's on me.
It feels like a Thursday night because Dieter's been with us on Thursdays, but we switched to Mondays. And welcome to the Krug Show. If you're sitting there going, man, that doesn't look like Krug's studio. It's not. It's not. I'm still here in New Orleans at our Airbnb. We'll be flying tonight, or later on, maybe this morning, I should say. So fired up to talk with Dieter. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out. So get there early, get some brisket chili. We're also brought to you by Sleeper and our good friends at Habis Law. And we'll tell you more about them in a bit. But Dieter, we're off and running. We titled this 49ers Stock Watch. And so we're going to go through this game, piece by piece and kind of get your thoughts on where the Niners sit.
Cool.
And why don't we start with the quarterbacks? What'd you think of Mac Jones? Was Mac Jones better than you thought? Was he not as good as what you thought? And
I mean, he was the man. Like, you have to appreciate the moxie that he played with, considering the circumstances. Listen, Mac was better than I thought he would be, unquestionably. I thought that was going to be a defensive slugfest. It proved to be anything but, and he made some really big time throws. There was a lot of stuff that when you watch it back, you're like, oh boy, this game could have looked a whole lot different had that ball been an inch in one direction or the other. And I suppose that goes in the positive realm as well, but there were a couple of plays that he got away with, if we're being frank. He's a system player, and this is a great system for him. That is not a knock in any way, shape, or form. I'm sure that it brought out the best in Kyle. I thought that Kyle called a brilliant game. But if we're talking about the system and system quarterbacks under Kyle Shanahan, you think, oh, well, you can get the super team around him, and that's just not what he had around him. He had Christian McCaffrey, yes, and Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings both had nice games, with Jennings having a bigger game statistically, though he was just fighting through about everything, man. He really wants those incentives on that contract. What a warrior. But you're out there with Jake Tonjes and Luke Farrell and a rookie left guard after the first or second series, and you're trying to figure out how to utilize a tight end as a fullback because Juszczyk is out, and the entire game plan was rightly predicated on using a fullback to create running lanes for your backs. And man, Pearsall's slipping all over the place because he can't seem to ever get his cleats right. This has been a problem going back to last year. He's just a slipper. He's got to figure something out. He's got to get together with Nike or Adidas, I don't know who sponsors him, and get these cleats figured out, even though everyone was slipping on that bad turf in New Orleans yesterday. And again, Jennings, a shell of himself, but just a warrior. For Mac Jones to be able to produce what he was able to produce under those circumstances, to do that 2-minute drive at the end of the first half, was really, really impressive. I'm not going to go any further than that, but this is what having a competent backup quarterback should look like. And this is why the 49ers have been right to go and get a guy like Sam Darnold in the past. Or this is why you have a Mac Jones. We're seeing around the league right now, starting quarterbacks, I mean, they are not long. They are not long for this world, apparently. Brock Purdy was the first to go. A whole new slate of guys going down this week. So having Mac Jones is such a luxury for this football team because he is absolutely good enough to win, and we don't have to speak about that as a theoretical anymore.
I kind of felt like, and I said it going into the game, that Kyle Shanahan's, thoughts on Mac Jones would be illustrated by his game plan.
Yeah.
Would he come out and run the heck out of it against a Saints team that gave up 5-4 carry in week 1 to New Orleans? To Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
If he really was afraid of Mac Jones, he probably would have run the ball a ridiculous amount of time. Instead, they came out passing, and he had Mac put it up nearly 40 times on the road against a Saints team that had 5 sacks the week before against Kyler Murray. So what does Kyle's game plan tell you about his thought process or thoughts on Mac Jones?
Well, I agree that he clearly has confidence in Mac because Mac has shown, and it was evident on the tape, that he knows this offense inside and out. I think we underrate that aspect. This is not a guy who's been in the system hanging around in these meetings for years and just, hey, I've been ingesting all of this and this is my chance. This guy showed up in the spring. Right? He was a free agent signing. He was like their only free agent signing outside of Luke Farrell on offense. So the idea that Mac has this kind of a command of the offense really, I think, kind of going back to the alternate universe that we lived in 2021, it shows why Kyle was so high on him. Obviously not the athletic traits that you're looking for when we're talking about a number 3 overall pick who would be worth 3 first-round picks, but then again, neither did Trey Lance. Didn't have them either, so everyone would have lost on that one. At least you would have had more competence in the meantime. Regardless, he really did trust him to execute this offense at its highest level in sort of the schematic manner of things, and that's a big deal. We certainly didn't see anybody do that last year, and maybe Kyle did trust a Brandon Allen to do all of those things between the ears, but that was all he had. And Max got just enough everywhere else to where you can actually manifest it onto the field. I also think that it was just a really great game plan from Kyle on the basis of when you watch the Saints defense in week 1 against Arizona, you would say, oh, well, they gave up, 5.2, 5.3 yards per carry, but they really didn't. I mean, I know that number is empirical, but when you watch them actually defend the run, and I thought this bore out in the game, they're really good at it. They fly to the ball. They're putting everybody on the line of scrimmage. They play that tight front, that 4-0-4, and they get those linebackers running downhill. Justin Reed is a hell of a football player, and so much of that, you think about outside zone, the wide zone that Kyle Shanahan wants to run, the basis of their offensive game plans for decades now, or a decade in the case of the Niners now. That's what that tight front and that defensive scheme that Brandon Staley has put together takes away. And you looked at what Arizona did on those, and yes, they had a 52-yard run. That 52-yard run required 2 Saints players to run into each other twice in order to break free. So they were all ready to hit him in the backfield. I think it was Trey Benson who had it. They hit him in the backfield, but guys were just running into each other twice. We saw that actually happen in this game with the Niners, where Spencer Rattler was able to get free not once but twice on a scramble, and the Niners ran into each other, kind of Benny Hill style, in order to free him up to get a first down on a long run. But the actual stoutness of that Saints defense was not reflected in the stat line, and you also just don't want to put Christian McCaffrey in that kind of line of fire. He's going to have to carry this offense with the personnel that they have around Mac Jones or Brock Purdy or whomever. Like that is the nature of the beast. No one likes it. We're all holding our breath because of the implicit risk of all of that, but like he is the guy for this offense, and running him outside the tackles, inside the tackles repeatedly against a front that is, and defense in general, that is built and keyed up on that would have been a really dangerous game. So putting that trust in Mac early and not having all of that on McCaffrey's plate, I thought really did a good job in making Brandon Staley adjust. And in those adjustments, Kyle was ready, and he put those linebackers in hell in the pass game from the start to the end of the game.
I thought Jones looked really, really sharp. The scramble was a little bit of a surprise. He had a nice 13-yard scramble.
Yeah. Never do that again, Mac.
Didn't expect to see that. I also kind of just feel like Jones carries himself, and not just in this game. I really feel like we've seen it all summer. He carries himself with there's a level of swagger that he has. I mean, I don't know how he feels about himself or his career, but he carries himself like a guy who really believes in his talent and believes in his ability. Mm-hmm. He had a good first year in the NFL. He had a bad second, third, and fourth year, or bad second and third year.
Yeah.
His fourth year was a backup duty, and now he's here. Where do you think his career goes from here? Because the 49ers signed him to a 2-year deal.
That's right.
For $7 million. To me, it's genius, because either he's going to be here at a very cost-effective price, and you've got this great backup quarterback that you can win games with for $7 million, which in and of itself has great value. Or maybe that contract could actually make him so coveted that the Niners could get maybe something as high as a day 2 pick for him.
Yeah.
I know that sounds absurd, but if this guy continues to play well, it's not. I don't think it is absurd.
No, I don't think it is. And we'll have to see. I mean, Arizona is going to be an entirely different kettle of fish, and I'm not as bullish. I wasn't bullish on him going into the Saints game, so maybe he'll prove me wrong again. But I really like Arizona's defense, and I think that it's going to maybe take advantage of some of those miscues that he had in the game against the Saints. The Saints just didn't take advantage of because of a young and, frankly, kind of garbage second. Isaac Yiadom might be the worst starter in the league. I mean, it's incredible that he fooled me so hard last year in training camp. I thought he had a chance to be really serviceable, and boy, was he not, and he has not gotten any better. But that's neither here nor there. The Galaxy brain take on Mac is, what's the upside for him in trying to go and be a starter somewhere else again? Like, I don't think this is how he thinks, and I don't think it's how he should think. But there is part of me that's like, you could really break the paradigm here if you're Mac Jones and hang around for your 2 years on the contract. Don't get traded to some crappy team that's willing to give up a nice draft capital for Mac Jones because they're that desperate. And just say, like, I'm just going to be the backup, because in the modern NFL, the backup's going to play like 5-6 games a year, it seems. And, Brock Purdy, he plays like he's, prime Cam Newton, or he plays like he's Josh Allen, but he is not built like either of those guys. So the idea that he's going to make it through 17 games every year is a bit fanciful. We'd love to see it, but it's a bit fanciful. If I'm Mac Jones, I think, man, I got a good thing going here. Yes, I could go and maybe revive my career, and I'm certain that is how he thinks, because you have to have that confidence. But what if he were to just do the Robert Saleh and just be like, no, I tried out this whole starting quarterback thing, and I was used as a scapegoat for what was clearly a horrible situation in those final years in New England. I mean, just wildly evident now that Bill Belichick and everybody around, all of his yes men, just had totally lost the plot in the post-Brady era. And Mac took the brunt of the blame for that, frankly, in the media and certainly in external perception for a couple of years. And now he gets he goes to Jacksonville. Nothing's expected. No one's really watching. He's able to just kind of wing it for a while. And he gets himself to San Francisco, and yes, he can get that Shanahan shine on him the way that Sam Darnold did, but he can also just be like, no, I'm good being the backup. I don't need more. Will get me a little bit more money down the line, but ultimately this is a pretty plum situation that I can hold for a really long time, and maybe that's the Galaxy brand. I would just advise Mac Jones, unsolicited advice to the great Mac Jones, like, think about it. Like, if this thing keeps going well, just think about maybe just stand in pat, because that would be a total coup for the Niners, and I think it would be probably a pretty good way to go through your life. But I imagine at some point, if he keeps playing really well, and we're just one game in, he'll get another shot somewhere, and you hope it's in a good situation for him, and he can run through like a Baker Mayfield-like career or a Geno Smith-like career, though it's not going so great for Geno right now, and kind of be one of these guys who eventually finds the right spot for him. But I do think that that game and what he showed in the Kyle Shanahan system, just another piece of evidence to say, like, I don't think it was all on Mac. I don't think Mac totally sucked, and that's why the situation in New England went to hell. Like, it can't all be on him. I'm not saying that he didn't have a role in it. He still has to perform. Some guys can transcend. He's clearly not one of those guys. But maybe take a closer look at Mac Jones now, because you put him in the right system with good, or I don't even know if he's got good players around him, but certainly great coaches around him, and he can actually be something for you inside of the right, again, system. So something to think about. But again, a long way to go, and we could be having a very different conversation about Mac Jones next Monday.
What is your thought as let's move to the running backs?
Yeah.
I mean, McCaffrey had a good first game. He wasn't quite as good in the second game. Brian Robinson, was acquired, but I mean, I got to be honest, he has not looked all that good.
No.
Garendo's a non-factor. Jordan James a non-factor. Juice now has a concussion. Sounds like he's not going to go against Arizona.
That's right.
What is your thoughts on the Niner running backs? It seems like
Yeah.
Robinson is a little bit underwhelming so far.
I mean, this is what I saw when I watched the Washington tape last year with Robinson. He'll get you exactly what's blocked for him, and he's not going to get you anything more. He's like a beautiful control in the experiment to show how good a Christian McCaffrey is, because this is the baseline. This is what average will get you, and that's what Brian Robinson's providing, frankly. And what Christian McCaffrey then gets on top of that shows how spectacular he is. I disagree with the assessment that he had a lesser game. I suppose if we're comparing it to week 1 in Seattle, it was lesser because Seattle has a hell of a defense. But I thought McCaffrey was majestic in that game. I thought he was fantastic in that game. As it stands, I wouldn't be shocked if we get Jordan James as the number 2 back here moving forward. And they need to spell McCaffrey. You cannot really spell him and keep your offense in order if you go to Brian Robinson, because Brian Robinson can do one thing and one thing only: run straight forward into the ass of an offensive line. Whereas with James, I wasn't as thrilled watching his college tape at Oregon with his hands and his route running and stuff, but like, he can do it. Like, you're dividing by 0 with Brian Robinson, which is why Washington gave him away. With James, like, he can do it, and he showed a really nice knack for squeezing into small windows, which is something that the Niners look for, and I think is a really sharp way to look at college running backs. Like, is he in tight windows, and does he show a propensity to slip through them? Because that's the NFL game in a nutshell. McCaffrey does it at a level that maybe no one else in the league can touch. Robinson simply doesn't do it. He does not slip through the windows. He just runs right into them, and hopefully that window was far enough that you got the yardage you needed. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets dumped down the depth chart again. That's not to say it was a bad trade, by the way, though, because Brian Robinson on your roster.
It was a bad trade for the Commanders. Eckler tore his Achilles, and they could probably use Brian Robinson.
Hey, listen, I think that Adam Peters certainly knows the phone number. Maybe they can do a reverse here. Like, hey, it's not working out for us. You need him. Let's do this thing. Like a little bit of take back here. I don't know what that would be. The return clause on a loan in soccer contracts, but the Juice thing will be really interesting because when you're dealing with these 5-man fronts that are becoming ubiquitous around the NFL, and they're obviously a bit more dynamic and a bit more, what do they call them, amoeba defenses, but they're going 3 safeties, 5 on the front with Arizona. That's the kind of defense that you want to have a fullback. You want to have that lead blocker against, and you want to have a chess piece that you can move around, even if Juice doesn't really do anything for you as an offensive player. Like, he has to at least be accounted for. If you don't account for him, he'll catch the ball, and you see his big gains are on the times where he's not accounted for. So just having a guy that you can move around in the backfield and be perceived as somewhat of a threat is huge. I thought Jake Tonjes did a nice job stepping in. I'm not sure Jake Tonjes is capable of really being an impact fullback for the San Francisco 49ers 21 personnel. It's nice to have him in a pinch, but I'm fascinated to see how Kyle schemes this one up, because if you don't have Juice going into the week, it's Tonjes there. How much do you use those sets? And it feels like those sets are necessary, but this is why Kyle's paid the big bucks.
Well, it's a weird situation watching the 49ers, because they have all these running backs, and I thought, man, this would be a game they're going to run it, run it and run it and run it and run
Totally logical, yeah.
And it didn't happen. And then, I didn't understand the way they kind of went through their backs this summer, who stayed, who went. It's like they got real hot on Guerrero. Then all of a sudden Guerrero fumbled 3 times. They traded for Robinson. They banished Guerrero, but they kept him on the roster. I mean, it's bizarre. Their situation at running back. Let's move to tight end. There's not going to be George Kittle. How do you feel like the Niners tight ends played in this game? You have Tonjes, you have Farrell. Farrell scored a touchdown, right? Yeah. Tonjes, what did Tonjes do? Tonjes
didn't really stand out in the stat sheet, but he was moving around. I mean, that's he did kind of what Kyle Juszczyk does. They just moved him around. He did some good blocks. He got called for a holding that I thought was kind of BS. He was being held, and then he held back, and they kind of called it on him. That's how it goes sometimes, but I thought of all the penalties on the day that was the one that kind of bothered me the least.
He caught 4 of his 5 targets for 31 yards for Tonjes, and Farrell had 2 catches, 15 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah. They only threw him the ball 3 times, and Willis didn't. He had 1 target and didn't catch it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll run this exact same crew back. The guy that they signed on the practice squad out of Arizona State is just a blocker and not a particularly good one at that, from what I could tell off the tape, though it's not exactly easy to find a lot of reps from him. Listen, the fact of the matter is that George Kittle is 2 tight ends in one, and that's the kind of player that you need to be in a Shanahan offense if you want to be a great player. Like, it makes Kyle's job really easy knowing that you have an elite blocking tight end and an elite receiving tight end in the same package, and it just drives defenses insane because they don't really know what to do. They replaced George Kittle with 2 guys. Ton just gives you the hands. I mean, it's not Kittle level, but it's adequate. It's above average in terms of the hands. He's got good hands. And Farrell's your blocker replacement. He's not as good of a blocker as Kittle, but it was average. It worked. And the problem is you just don't get to play 12 men. It'd be great if they could both be on the field at the same time without losing anything, but you'd have to take somebody off to play them both and to sort of get that versatility that you get from Kittle. So this is, again, like I'm just really fascinated. You have a backup quarterback who can't scramble or extend plays with his feet. You have McCaffrey, who's kind of your first year, last year, everything. You have a dead man walking in Jawan Jennings, who's just going to gut it out, right? But you press him man to man, that could be a real issue. You have Pearsall, who's now getting all of the attention, and he's still getting open, but he's not like an all-pro level caliber player. I mean, this is where finding tight windows and little scheme advantages that you can find, and I thought showed up in New Orleans, are absolutely huge because you just don't have the dudes. Like they have one dude on their offense right now, like a bona fide dude. And forgive me for diminishing the role of a Trent Williams, but when we're talking about offensive skill players, they have one great skill player, and that's a very different ball game than the one that Kyle Shanahan's been playing the last couple of years.
I don't get why they don't get more aggressive at tight end. I mean, they use the tight end a lot.
Yeah.
Kittle's going to be gone a month right now. Who knows what he's going to be gone later
Finicky injury too, right? He comes back. I mean, that could go on the first snap back.
Right. Then you have Tongas, who I think has got great hands, so he's your receiver. You got Farrell, who's your blocker, but they wanted to have a third guy, and they promote Braden Willis. Yeah. And I get it if you're I don't know. They've gone with 4 guys at tight end in the past. I don't understand. I mean, maybe he's hurt, but isn't Gerald Everett a free agent? Wouldn't Gerald Everett in this offense be quite a bit better than Braden Willis? Yeah. Why are they not going for another player here? Yeah. It seems odd that they signed Messiah Swinson to the practice squad. Yeah. He's a great interview, but I don't know.
Yeah, nice guy, but not a very good football player from what I can tell.
He's big. I mean, he's 6'7", 6'8".
That's about it.
But I mean, why? There's other tight ends around the league on practice squads. You could have Robert Tonyan, who went to Kittle's tight end U. There's a couple other guys out there that you could have. Rivaldo Fairweather was a tight end I really liked in the draft from Auburn. He's a great athlete. He's on Dallas's practice squad. I don't know. I'm not a Braden Willis guy. I don't. I see a marginal receiver. I see a totally weak, underpowered guy who can't block at all. Yeah, and it's like, what would It's the Office Space thing. What would you say you do here?
Go talk to the Bobs.
Does he? I mean, what does this guy have pictures of somebody? Does this guy have something on somebody? Why is this guy on the roster?
He knows the plays. This is kind of
really?
No, legitimately. This, I'm not saying it's a good answer. I'm telling you this is the answer as far as I can surmise because I've asked this question, and it's why are they around? Because tight ends are asked to do a tremendous amount, right? They have to. This is why I think tight ends make really good game analysts on broadcast, and why I think Greg Olson and the number 2 Fox crew is their better crew. People bring in quarterbacks to the booth because they have to know defense and offense. That's logical. But tight ends also know all this stuff because they have to know the run game and the pass game, and of course the defenses that go against both of those. So they're in the same boat, and this is why rookie tight ends so rarely break out. I know that we're in a new era where a Brock Bowers is going off, and Trey McBride was okay, but Hawkinson his first year, Laporta his first year, but as a standard in the NFL, it takes a year or two for tight ends to turn into what it is they're going to be because it's so much to ingest, it's so much to have to understand, and this is Kyle's kind of. I'm with you. This is where Kyle gets a little bit too into his own stuff, where he is unwilling to put in somebody who has no familiarity with what he does, somebody who's coming in off the street and play them, even though they are unquestionably a more talented player, because they don't know the plays. And you saw that even with Kendrick Bourne. Like Kendrick Bourne, who knows what Kyle's up to, even though the offense has changed pretty dramatically. But like Kendrick Bourne didn't know the plays when he's out there. Mack is showing him around. Pearsall's showing him around. Jennings is showing him around. So not knowing the plays is like an automatic mark. And if I'm Kyle, I'm thinking, okay, do I want to go in and take that risk if I know I only need it for 2 or 3 more games? When then Kittle will come back and everything will be okay. It's not a sane plan because Kittle could always get injured again, but and by then that guy might actually know the plays, who has the talent. But Kyle gets this is why Kyle Juszczyk is just always on the team. Like they could have moved on from Kyle Juszczyk 4 years ago, and it would have been just fine. But it's like, well, he knows all the plays. Like he is an offensive coordinator on the field, and Kyle's like, I don't want to have to teach somebody all this new stuff. I'd rather just scheme around their deficiencies, and Kyle thinks he can do it. And evidence shows that he might be able to, which is more than maybe any other offensive coordinator in the league can say, but it's not good enough, frankly, when you don't have the kind of players around that tight end position or around that fullback position where you can just say, that's fine, we don't need that position for a day. Those guys just go in there, don't turn into liabilities, and these other guys will carry the load. The other guys, save for Christian McCaffrey, aren't carrying the load. You don't have the Avengers around your system quarterback that can insulate these things. Your offensive line isn't even capable of insulating these problems. So I think it's Kyle just thinking, short term, I'll figure it out. In the same way that they don't allow Brock to change protections and that the answer is in the play and they just throw hot, Kyle thinks that way. Well, the answer is somewhere in my notebook of plays and my scheme. Like, I can solve this problem. And again, he might be the only guy who can reasonably say that and get away with it. But the sacrifice of talent for the sake of knowledge will bite them in the ass, unquestionably. And it's just a question of when. Yeah,
just go for the best players. Keep adding the best players. By the way, Green leaves here. I have people skills.
Exactly.
I am good with people. Why do you people not understand this?
Meanwhile, we're on the jump to conclusions, Matt, over here.
You jump to conclusions. That's still, in some ways, the greatest movie of all time. I left the box
Not going to
score.
disagree.
I left the box score in the other room. Let me grab it, but give me your thoughts on the receivers. I'll be right back. Give me 30 seconds.
Listen, Juwan. Well, I mean, I'd say listen, but he's not listening. So all of you out there, let's talk about Juwan Jennings and what football players are all about here. Like, what a warrior! What a player! He's out there. I don't know who took longer to get into the end zone on their touchdown. Luke Farrell, who was just meandering. I wish that we had a Chris Berman rumbling, bumbling, stumbling to play over that, or Juwan Jennings, who looked in agony on every stride running into the end zone on his 42-yard touchdown. But what a dude, and it's clear that Mack actually really trusts him. He had a couple of anticipation throws to Juwan Jennings, and Juwan was the number one read on a lot of the Mac Jones stuff that was thrown his way this week, which speaks to Kyle's appreciation of a Juwan Jennings. I shudder to think what that offense would have looked like had Juwan Jennings not been out there, which seemed probable. I know he was listed as questionable, but seemed probable given the fact that his legs are hurt and his arms are hurt. Like, he can barely lift his arms above his head, and every time he does, you can see him wincing, and he's not running all that hot these days, and it's not like he had a step to give. So Juwan Jennings' performance, I was joking about this with Hutch on the Dieter and Hutch show yesterday. It was very reminiscent of the Greg Jennings put the team on his back performance from that Madden clip, that Madden meme back in the day. I thought Pearsall was fine. It's about as nice as he had his moments of really good play. I don't think there were enough of those to really say that he had a good game. But there was enough to where you're also not, saying stock down either on Ricky Pearsall. Marquez Valdez-Scantling actually might have made a great play, just knocking a ball down that was going to be intercepted, but he didn't do anything for you. Russell Gage wasn't up for that game. I actually got a little bit confused in this game, Larry. I know, shocker, where Sky Moore was out there and he was in line on a couple of reps, and he just got absolutely worked. Just worked as a route runner, worked as a blocker, and I go, man, Braden Willis sucks. Like this, what is he doing out there? And then I see Braden Willis come on wearing like 84 or some nonsense, and I'm like, oh, who was that other Braden? I look at him as Sky Moore, who I don't think they can play from scrimmage. Full stop. I mean, the wide receiver room is a tough watch right now, and it kind of like with the tight end situation, actually it's going to get not just a little bit better, but way better if you just wait if you could just survive for a couple more weeks. Then you get Robinson back. Maybe Ayuk comes back after the mini bye, maybe not, but at least that possibility exists there. You can get Watkins more integrated. You don't have to play Sky Moore as an actual receiver. You don't have to play Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Sorry, there's a fly on my camera. Jeez Louise. They must have found my takes.
I really don't like their receiving core. I mean, Jennings is the man, and he's tough, and I love Jennings. Okay, Jennings.
Awesome. What a football player.
Love Jennings. I wish we could, clone Jennings. Pearsall ain't bad.
No.
But why are they I mean, this is just so maddening. It's like you have Jordan Watkins. He was active, could have been activated this week, but he can't be activated because you've clogged your roster with all these veteran bad players. I mean, what's Kendrick Bourne at this point?
I didn't even mention him. Doesn't that say something?
What's Marquez Valdez-Scantling at this point?
Nothing.
I mean, cut those guys loose.
Well, at least one of them sort of kind of knows the plays.
You gave Bourne $5 million. I mean, that was a stupid move. And you have Jordan Watkins sitting on the side, not doing anything. He could have been activated, but you didn't activate him. Yeah, it's like, it really is frustrating because it's like Shanahan doesn't he's a full-time offensive coach and a part-time personnel evaluator.
Right.
And he's got the fucking final say.
Right.
You can't have a guy who has the final say who's a part-time evaluator who is just like, yeah, I'm going to go with guys I've heard of. And, so, I mean, I kind of like Kendrick. Kyle, there's 9 receivers out of work that are worlds better than Kendrick Bourne at this point. There's 10 receivers on the street and on practice squads that are worlds better than Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? I almost feel like I want to see Shanahan be forced to lean on those guys so he can find out what shitbirds they actually are.
I think we've seen it.
Dead. They cannot play anymore. And it's like, get current. It's like, who's your favorite coach? Vince Lombardi? I mean, if you want to recommend somebody, it's got to be somebody that you have, personally. It's like, you don't know. Just say it. You're not current on all the players. You're not. I could ask Kyle Shanahan questions about players on his own roster that I know more about than he does.
Well, it's interesting you say that. It kind of goes back to the do they know the plays argument. And so, like, Valdez-Scantling's coming from the Clint Kubiak offense in Seattle, which he was with for like 2 months. But, at least he's coming from a one-to-one, I suppose. And then, with Bourne, they used to know him. But it's so interesting you say that because they've been running through so many guys, right? Like, they've been trying to build a competent 53 since the middle of August. And every time we ask, right, the obvious question, like, what do you like about this person that you just signed? Kyle, every single time, goes to how they evaluated him during the draft. Every time.
They liked him in the draft coming
Liked him in the draft. The draft could have been a decade ago. They liked him in the draft then. And I think that really lends itself to your point. Like, he doesn't do pro personnel. Unless it pops up on tape, which he's barely watching the other team's offense on tape. He's doing it as sort of a perfunctory act and so that he can get back to watching the other team's defense. But yeah, I guess I have to watch it so that Bob and I can have a conversation down the line this week on our like 1 hour meeting the entire week. Because to be fair to Kyle, for the last 2 years, he has had to spend a tremendous amount of time watching the other team's offense and effectively coming up with game plans for the other team's offense. John Lynch was doing this too, to where they would have meetings with Wilkes and they would have meetings with Sorensen, and they would have to bring up suggestions because those guys were, well, in the case of Wilkes, so dead set on what it is they want to do that they would never run a bespoke game plan. In the case of Sorensen, he didn't know what to do because he was just incompetent at his job, which, that's really fun to hear all that stuff now, like months later after they fired him. It's like, oh, well, you could have told me this months ago, but that's a sourcing problem that's neither here nor there. Kyle was spending a lot of time on it, so when Saleh came back, he got kind of excited that he didn't have to watch as much of the other team's offense is that, so he has no flipping idea who's good on offense and who's not, because he's not thinking about that. He dumps that out.
It's so obvious what they're doing. It's like, we don't have any ideas. Robert, is there somebody you like? You're kind of high up in the room.
Correct.
Yeah, I like Brant Boyer. Yeah, I like Adrian Martinez. Yeah, I like
first four draft picks.
They have these parade of guys from the Jets, and that's fine if there's a conviction there. Yeah. But if there's no conviction, then it's just like, what? I mean, let me sit in the room. You can pay me nothing, and I will sit there and watch and grind and find the guy, and then I will sit there and pound the table for the best guy with some conviction. I get the feeling that you probably got a room full of guys who don't want to lose their job, so they don't ever stand up to Kyle. They don't ever stand up to Lynch. They don't ever stand up to Saleh, and they're just like, well, we'll let those guys pick who they want, because it's the best way to have job security. And it's like, it's also the best way to never get better. And I just think overall, incremental improvement, I hate to say this. I kind of would like the Niners to run the back of their practice squad and their back of their roster like Farhan Zaidi.
There it is. You're not wrong. That guy could build the bottom of a roster.
Farhan Zaidi I bet you the back of his fantasy team is probably pretty good.
That's why he won it every year.
He's churning. That's what you need to do.
That's right.
When the Niners
what the Eagles
were horrible. Yeah, exactly. And when the Niners were horrible at the beginning, and even like in the Nolan era when they were horrible, they would bring in a couple guys. And guess what? You ran into a Jeremy Curley. And right. Say, who's Jeremy Curley? Well, he actually was a pretty decent receiver for the Niners for a short amount of time. You're going to run into some guys if you are looking for guys. But if you're just going with, hey, who was here before? Well, Malik Turner. Okay, get him in here.
Yeah.
Well, who else was here before? Well, they got that guy.
Thank God we got Tariq Owens on the line,
Can I have some fucking creativity? I mean, can we pretend like we give a shit here and not just keep bringing the same guys back?
I get it if it's just do that at one position, though.
10 days.
They do that. They do that in one spot on the team. Offensive line, they do that at. They always have bring back reserves. I mean, I know they bring back guys, right? But, like, they're always thinking a couple layers beyond. Forster legitimately does a good – this is how they got McKivitz. They had him on the practice squad. They kept, they keep him around. This is what they're doing with the Nuge. It's how they got Brendel. He was on the practice squad for a couple of years. They build it up. They do the Howie Roseman, which is the modern equivalent. Like, they do that at offensive line because Kyle – doesn't interject on that. Kyle doesn't do it. The point you made about the scouts is something that I've kind of been echoing for a while, and it was really evident during the draft process. Like, I'm not keen on where their scouting department is at all. They lost a good deal of guys over the years with all of the personnel changes, Rand Carthen going, and then Adam Peters going, and a bunch of other guys going. And the guys that they have left, I know a couple of them are nice guys, and I'm sure that all of them are competent enough to be at the NFL level. But like, they don't have an ace on their scouting staff right now, and I think Kyle and John and Robert know that, and so they don't even bother really asking if anyone has unearthed a gem somewhere on a practice squad or some Division II player. Like, they don't even bother going to their personnel guys who have the time and the literally
this is their job.
That's their job. That's what they're supposed to be doing. They don't even bother asking. It's sort of this, hey, what do you think? And then they kind of go to the spreadsheet and they see a name that they like and go, yeah, sure. Because they don't care. But the problem is when your roster is this depleted, you need to care more. You need to care more about those little things. And you need to take out some insurance policies. And this is, why it's so important to have a farm system in baseball, right? Like what happens when your second baseman tears his Achilles?
Well, it's more important than that, because in baseball, you may lose a guy. In football, you may lose your whole team. And you're going to need a whole new team. So this lack of creativity, well, we brought this guy back. He was with us 3 years ago. He was shitty then.
Yes.
And he's worse now. And it's like you're going to keep bringing guys in just because you know them. Are you fearful of your locker room? Are you fearful of bringing in a bad actor? You're the guys who brought in Devondre Campbell, by the way, and you're worried about bringing in guys that might not fit in. You brought in a guy who I could have told you a month before he went AWOL, hey, bro, this guy's going AWOL.
Well, he went AWOL in Minnesota.
Patterns. I know personnel enough to know when when he's imploding. And that guy was absolutely on the brink of an implosion. Yep. He could not accept the twilight of his career. He would not accept the twilight of his career.
Right.
Every player, coach, and fan and media person knew he was a placeholder for Dre Greenlaw. Everybody knew that except for him. Yep. So when it was time for Dre Greenlaw to assert his spot, this guy lost it. And there was indications in the locker room for 3 weeks prior.
He was bitching about Winters. He was bitching when they wanted to give Winters more snaps. He's like, I'm not going to. No, that's my spot. And it's like, dude,
think about that. Why don't we? All these pro Niner people, and I know there's a lot of pro Niner people, and that's fine. I'm pro Niners too. Instead, Niner fans though, be a little bit more critical. Yep. Okay, for example, Devondre Campbell was absolutely horseshit.
Yep.
D. Winters looks great. Great right now that people are saying, screw, we didn't need Dre Greenlaw. I'm glad we have D. Winters. Well, think about it. Think about it logically for a second. You love D. Winters. You're glad you have him. Mm-hmm. He was on the team last year, and he sat behind Devondre Campbell.
Yep.
Because when I asked, Sorensen about it, who probably had as much right to be the defensive coordinator as I do, he was like, hey, man, he's a strong veteran influence. Yeah, it's called a negative influence.
That's right. He is a strong influence.
He's a strong veteran negative influence. The guy was an absolute cancer, and they couldn't recognize it until he almost probably started attacking people. And it was
tough. At least he took a pacifist way out. I mean, that could have gone way worse. I covered the Raiders on a daily basis for a couple of years. Trust me, I know how bad it can get. That locker room was nothing but Devondre Campbell's, just guys who couldn't accept the twilight of their careers and just knowing that there was, the emperor had no clothes. Like, that's where having a guy like Saleh is so important, right? Like, the Campbell thing doesn't happen.
They lean too heavily on Saleh. I can already tell you that right now.
I agree. Look at their draft picks.
Robert Saleh's already made like about 5 different hire recommendations. And they've gone with them, but I mean, seriously,
he's going to run out of names.
Why are you leaning on your defensive coordinator to do all your personnel for you? You guys don't have any ideas of your own? Somebody's a college scouting director, somebody's the pro scouting director. These guys are making probably $250,000 a year. What the hell are they doing? You're going to lean on Robert. If you're going to lean on Robert Saleh for every freaking move, what do you need all these other guys for?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Larry, I'm with you 100%. The scouting department is not up to snuff, and it's proven itself. And all you needed to know about how little they think of their own scouting department. I know they give the good lip service anytime someone asks, because what else are you going to say? Like, oh yeah, they suck. We do all of it. But when Jed York is out here just tweeting, like, let's ask Robert who we should take. What the fuck are we doing? That's amateur hour. I mean, listen, Robert made some pretty good draft picks, to be fair, but like, they need to seriously, if they can't get the bottom of that roster, which is going to be a problem no matter how well this draft class goes, right? Because the draft class is the middle of their roster. These young guys are the middle of their roster. They still have the whole bottom of their roster they have to fill out with street free agents and undrafted free agents and actual people they have to pay money to. But that bottom part of the roster is always going to be in flux because they didn't draft well enough for like almost a half decade straight, that you don't have that level of insulation. You didn't spend any money to create any insulation. So like if you're not going to be able to put yourself in a position to actually create a decent farm system or practice squad situation in the next year or two, how about this? How about you take the time and energy that would have been spent on building that up, and how about you get some guys who can take care of the job for you? How about you delegate a little bit here? And it's just not something that they've done. They've let that side of the front office deteriorate in a way that is it was super concerning going into the draft from all the conversations I was having.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't endorse it. Kev's like, don't crush the front office in week 2. All right, Kev. All right.
Hey, they're 2-0. Does anyone? Legitimately, I'll say this: like, you should feel pretty good about that game against. Like, does anyone feel like awesome about that Seattle game? Like, 2-0 is 2-0. I'm not taking anything away from it, but
I feel better about it this week than last week because
you absolutely should, because the expectations were lower. Like, this is an interesting question that Jake asked me yesterday. Like, how do you feel about this team at 2-0? And if you were thinking that they're going to go and play in the Super Bowl, which I know that nobody rational was thinking, but there's a lot of irrational people who think.
I picked them to go to the Super Bowl against the Chargers.
There you go. Chargers was a great pick. But like, if you thought they were going to go to the Super Bowl, you can't feel good about where they are because you're seeing the roster as where it stands. But if you're thinking, oh, maybe they can get into the playoffs this year, you got to feel great about that because they're making something out of not a lot. But either way that you look at it, you have to see that this roster is just a fucking mess. And it will get better in theory, but it will also get more injured as they play more football. And I don't know where those lines cross, if they ever touch, but it's pretty concerning. Like, depth wins in the NFL, and this team has zilch depth.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you would swear that their biggest concern is somebody really talented may not get to play, as opposed to, hey, what if we run out of guys that are really talented? All right, let's hit Sleeper. The 49er football season is presented on the Krug Show by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use the promo code
Sleeper.
Larry, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions to apply.
Get yourself some Sleeper.
All right, let's make a sleeper lineup. The link is there in the description. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's make a lineup. Let's do this. Let's get this sleeper lineup up, and we will freaking do this sleeper.
What are we doing it for Thursday? Are we doing it for Sunday? What do we got? What would you like to do?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what we put together here.
What is Thursday? It's Washington and no, I don't know. No, it's just Washington. Who's going to play on Thursday?
All right, big thanks to Sleeper. Remember, use code Larry for 100% deposit match up to $100. Links right in the description. Terms apply. Helps support the show and gets you rolling on the #1 show app. All right, let's talk a little bit about the offensive line. What did you think of the offensive line performance this week?
I thought it was really good. Surprise! Like, let's talk about the one guy. Like, Connor Colby stepping in was awesome. He was really good. That was like an A-grade performance watching it back. I was so impressed with how he played. He was doing some really nice stuff. And you got a situation where Pooney's out there, and you can see his injury on every play. He's still damn good, but you can see his injury. You have McKivitz, who had a solid enough game. I'm not going to put the entirety of that strip sack on McKivitz because he did his job, which is, I don't know, take the defensive end to the ground, and then you're in a really tough spot as an offensive lineman because if you're just to lay on top of them, they'll call holding on you for that. So you kind of have to let him get up, and then you got to punch him. Like, wasn't awesome, but it was also like 4 seconds into the play. I don't know when you're supposed to stop when you got a guy on the ground and it's 4 seconds into a play. I'm not sure that I'm expecting anyone to, play through the whistle to that level, except the whistle hadn't gone there. So I'm not going to put that on him. I thought he was just fine. I thought Brendel had a really nice run blocking game and held up better in protection than I expected. And Trent battled through it. Trent was pretty damn good. It was certainly a big departure from what we saw in Seattle, and given the injury and how doubtful the Niners seemed to be in-house that he would play, he didn't look that injured to me. They had Mac Jones back there who will throw the ball when he is good and ready. I mean, he's a statue. I know he had that scramble and he had a couple nice bootlegs, but he really wants to think that one through back there, and they gave him time to think that one through up there. And I like the Saints defensive line, so I think you have to tip your hat to the offensive line, and particularly Colby. Really, really impressive. I think we've seen the last of Ben Barch. I didn't see this coming from Connor Colby. I thought his tape at Iowa showed a player who shouldn't have been drafted, much less starting in the NFL in year one. But he looks absolutely awesome in that game. They were throwing a bunch of stuff at him. They didn't change the game plan at all. He's pulling. He's doing he's doing 1-2 blocks. He was really excellent in that. And with Barch having a high ankle sprain, I don't think he gets that job back at left guard for the remainder of the season. So very encouraging offensive line game.
Yeah, I mean, Connor Colby is quite a bit better than Ben Barch. Ben Barch is strong. Ben Barch has good size, but Ben Barch is very fragile. I mean, he's only played 5 or 6 games without getting hurt, and I'm not sure why. Some guys either are unlucky or they don't have very high pain tolerance. But the one thing about Connor Colby is Connor Colby's played 50 career college games, and football hurts, and you get hurt when you play football, and it's not an easy sport. So if you show me a guy that's played 50 college games, made 50 college starts, I'll show you a guy that for sure has a high pain tolerance and for sure has played hurt. Colton McKivitz is a good example. Since 2023, when they put him in the starting lineup, guess what? Colton doesn't miss any starts. Does that mean Colton doesn't get hurt? No.
Nope.
Colton gets hurt. Colton just goes out there anyway. And that's what you need in your offensive line. You need guys who are going to go out there anyway. And that's just the bottom line. And I think the Niners have a good enough collection of linemen to be good. I just don't think they're putting him on the field. They've got, the Niners are this gigantic inside story. Okay. So Trent didn't practice all summer, but the inside story is that he's a future Hall of Famer and he can do whatever the hell he wants.
Right.
Jake Brendel has been one of the worst players in football, according to Pro Football Focus. But the inside story is that, the Niners didn't have a lot of money to spend, and Chris Forster said, hey, I know this guy who's cheap from Miami, and they brought him in, and he was passable, and now he made Forster a star in the eyes of Shanahan and Lynch, and now they're going with Brendel. Now they're just deferring to Forster, and Forster, just staying with his guy, and he keeps calling him a Pro Bowler. He was never a Pro Bowler. He was a Pro Bowl alternate 3 years ago, okay? That's right. The truth. He's never been a Pro Bowler. He's a Pro Bowl alternate. And he's just not good. He has decent run blocking numbers from this week, but he had horrible pass blocking numbers. He allowed 4 pressures. It was the most of any lineman the Niners have. And to me, it's I think I would go with Colby at left guard the rest of the way, and then at least you have some consistency there. And then be open minded if Brendel, who's unbelievably durable, by the way. I mean, it's always the guys who struggle who never get hurt.
It's like drunk people in car crashes. They always seem to walk out
really
unscathed.
Durable player. Really durable.
It matters.
And
he also knows all the protections. He's in charge of the protections. That's another Kyle thing. Do I want to trust somebody in that situation if they're not totally simpatico with what it is I want to do?
Drake Nugent went to Stanford. Something tells me he's smart
enough. He's to Michigan. He went to both Michigan and Stanford. Is that right? Yeah, double degree.
So I mean, Drake Nugent, he's on the practice squad. You could go to Barch if Barch gets healthy at center. If they had a big time tackle, let's just say it was a year from now, and they had a big time tackle and Trent Williams, I think the Colton McKivitz signing was about Trent Williams is probably hanging it up at the end of the year, but maybe not.
Yeah.
What if at the end of the year, Trent Williams says, you know what? I am going to play one last year in 2026. Then let's say you draft a tackle. Well, guess what? You might be able to play Colton McKivitz at center.
Maybe.
You're only paying him $7 million or $15 million or whatever. $15 million, I guess.
I'm not sure if he's Graham Barton, but yeah.
But I'm just saying. Well, he can. The whole book on him coming out of West Virginia is the guy can play all 5 spots.
True.
I'm just saying, the 49ers, I think in Pooney and now in Colby, have 2 guards that they should go with. And not think twice. And I the other thing about Connor Colby is you need offensive line play is about continuity. You need to have continuity. And they don't have any continuity if they keep having guys injured. If they keep going with starters who've never played more than 5 games, odds are they're not going to continue to be hurt all the time. So I would say go with Connor Colby.
Well, they don't have a choice right now. And I think it's going to be like more than a month to be sure. Again, he's going to get the run. We're going to find out one way or another with Connor Colby. Very, very encouraging first game, but he has every opportunity. There's literally no caveat you have to throw on this. He has an opportunity to be the 49ers left guard for the next 4 years, because if he can make it through this season and hold off Ben Barch, they'll never consider bringing in competition for him. He'll just be the guy until his contract runs out, and maybe they'll re-up it a couple times. If they can get average, and maybe even Colby can be better than that, but if they can get average on the offensive line, so long as they have one elite tackle, right? If they have one great tackle, they can deal with average everywhere else and slide everybody, and then just have one-on-ones with that one great tackle on bootlegs and stuff. They'll stick with it, and I think Connor Colby, with what he showed against the Saints, has every chance to be just average fine, and you never really think, or at least they never really think about replacing him again.
I think Connor Colby is going to be the guy. I think he's going to be the guy for years to come. I think he looks great. I mean, he's built exactly the way you want an offensive lineman to be built.
He moved great too. I mean, and I know that he tested well in that, but he moved and still popped, which is a nice thing to see. I don't even think Pooney does that all that well. When Pooney gets on the move, he's still going to give you the block, but it's not as powerful as it would be if he was just in a regular pass set or just in a basic zone. But if you get him on the move, he gets him to the second level. He delivered a couple second-level blocks that really had some thrust to him. It was a really solid game. I'm a Barch guy. I really liked Barch. I can't disagree with anything you said about him. Best ability is availability, and the dude hasn't played. But the rare occurrences when he does play football, I think he puts out some pretty good tape. Colby put out just as good of tape, if not a little bit better. It's one game, but he's going to get a large sample size here, and I doubt pretty significantly that he gives up that job again.
Burford's hurt. How did he get hurt?
It has to be on special teams. I couldn't bring myself to typing Spencer Burford into the All-22 machine and finding out when the hell he was on the field, but he didn't take a snap from scrimmage, so it had to have been on special teams. So
49ers have lost Pooney and Burford to injuries that occurred on special teams.
Yeah.
Am I getting that right?
That's
hard to
correct,
believe.
Yeah.
I think the Niners have a major problem at offensive line. I think they're completely delusional about the lack of quality of their offensive tackles. I don't think Burford can do it. I don't think Pleasance can do it. I'm pretty convinced. We'll see, but you know what? That could be a very
you better hope that you don't have to see, because if it's just Pleasance,
we are going to see. Come on, you're gonna.
No, you're right. No,
play.
I mean, the Pleasance situation. The Pleasance situation in the preseason, the worst player on the 49ers in the preseason was Matt Hennessy. The second worst player for the 49ers in the preseason was Austin Pleasance. He couldn't run block. If that guy can't run block, what is it? Going to the Bobs. What is it you say you do here?
Right.
I'm interested. I'm willing to see it through with Burford, because there were enough reps in practice during training camp, for whatever that's worth, where you're like, oh, I get it. I see it. There's a glimmer there that gets me kind of excited about the possibility. That doesn't mean shit, really, but at least it's something. It's a little bit of hope. But he ain't healthy, so it doesn't flip and matter. Fascinated to see, because they got to bring in somebody off the street this week, I imagine, and fascinated to see who the hell that is, because they got some really. You got Justin School starting in the NFL right now. So what the hell can you find on the street? I mean, they might call you or me, Larry. I'm not kidding.
I mean, there's nobody. There's nobody.
Nobody.
I mean, I mentioned McClendon Curtis got cut, but I mean
that is not even a person. I've never heard of that. McClendon Curtis.
Yeah, he's actually a pretty good player. He played at Tennessee Chattanooga. He's a decent player, but he might be more of a guard. I mean, at best, he's a right tackle. Here's the thing. Curtis. This is why these guys get paid ungodly sums of money, because gigantic human beings with feet like ballerinas don't.
The
really
greatest
exist.
athletes on the planet, power to strength. The greatest athletes on the planet are defensive ends.
You don't see offensive linemen just walking around. So that's a real problem for the 49ers. I think it's a real problem, because I think the problem is that if soon as one of these tackles goes down, and by the way, Mr. Joe, Larry, don't jinx us. All right, I'm so sick of this shit. I'm so sick of this kind of comment. If I stood up here and said, I think this, and it's going to happen because I'm so smart, you'd all be like, you arrogant bastard. What
that's my shtick. Come on.
It's like if I said it was going to happen because I said it, you'd all call me arrogant. But it's okay for you guys to be like, anything we discuss, it's like, oh, you're jinxing the team. No, we're not.
If we had the power, if we had the power to jinx, do you think we'd be doing this?
I mean, I'm not jinxing the team. I'm sorry. I'm saying that they don't have a third tackle, and they haven't had one all summer. They pretended that Spencer Burford was a tackle, but when it really mattered in practice, he's false starting left and right. But they're not calling it. So then he played a little bit in the preseason. I don't think he played particularly well.
It wasn't spellbinding.
He's not really a tackle. He's not a tackle. No. And I understand it. There's not a lot of options, and I get it. It's like, it's when you get to July and you don't have a tackle, you're kind of screwed. I don't know where they're going to get a tackle.
This is why you spend. This is why. And listen, I was just commending, and I still think that this is a much better situation than the vast majority of teams who don't know where their left tackle is on a given basis, like a day-to-day basis, right? Like there are teams just scrambling to find starters. So it's nice to be scrambling to find backups. That's a position of power. I do think the Niners have done a good job in kind of building up a bit of a reserve, but it doesn't mean that it's a good situation if you have to go to them, right?
Well,
it's not like there's a whole second line.
Credit the Niners. I think they've rebuilt their interior offensive line already. I think Pooney's real. I think Colby's real. I think Drew Moss is real.
We'll see about Drew Moss. I like Moss a lot.
He's strong as hell.
Yeah, but you can go right across his face. You can go right across his face. Which,
I mean, he's not. First of all, he's built like a center. I haven't seen him play center, but he looks like a center. Now, why don't we try him at center? Because that's what he looks like. He looks like a center. He's a short guy,
stumpy boy.
But I mean, they have Moss, they have Colby, they have Pooney. They have Brendel, they have Nugent. I mean, I kind of feel fortified in the inside. The tackle thing, there's no way around it. But you have to invest in a tackle in the draft next year, and you may have to play that guy right away. So you better get a good one.
That or they find somebody that somebody else has outcast because they have a bad offensive line coach and ran a bad system. But you think about the amount of teams in the NFL that revamped their offensive, like let's use the Texans as an example, right? Their offensive line was terrible last year. So what did they do? They go out and get a whole new offensive line. It's like, oh, apparently it can get worse. That's impressive. Like bringing in Laken Tomlinson and playing Ursery at right tackle. Actually, no, let's put him at left. They're just making it up as they go along. That's their starting five in front of C.J. Stroud with some serious offensive weapons. Now, not
I thought Ursery had a great summer.
I heard that he had a great summer. Who the hell knows what that means? He could look. I mean, who knows?
I'd take him in a heartbeat, man.
I mean, at this point, as a backup, absolutely. But as your starting left tackle protecting C.J. Stroud, maybe in a couple of years. But And that it's
they
not
traded their guy, right? Didn't they trade?
They traded Tunsil.
Gas Mask to where'd he go?
They traded him to Washington, who tried to revamp their offensive line, and that I don't think is working out. All that everyone's just and think about this: the Packers are out here just throwing $77 million at Aaron Banks, who any defensive coach, and many of them did tell me, scouts and coaches told me, like, oh, the game plan was just find the worst offensive lineman. This is how the game plan start. Who's the worst on their offensive line? Let's attack him repeatedly until he stops it. And for the 49ers all of last year, that was Aaron Banks. And he got $77 million off of that reputation from a team who I know their defensive staff thought that about him. And then you get your backup to McKivitz and Trent in Jalen Moore. He gets $15 million a year. So there's a lot of teams who, because they don't have competent offensive line coaches, because there's about 7 of those, frankly, and I think the Niners have one of them, you have all of these teams just throwing money at the problem or just changing it up for the sake of changing it up. But it's all led to something that I've been yelling for years. The state of offensive line play at the college level has never been worse. It's so bad. They're playing a different sport, and they're not playing it particularly well, and there's very little that translates to the NFL level. And it is so obvious when you watch offensive line play in the NFL today that problem has reared its head. It has finally trickled all the way up. It was a problem in high school because you didn't have enough kids playing football. It's been a big problem in college because of the schemes that they run. And again, the problem of not having enough talent to choose from. And now it has reached the NFL level. So like Colton McKivitz at $15 million, you have to do it. You can't think twice about it because what's the alternative? If Chris Forrester is as good as I think he is, he'll find a tackle. I will agree with you on this. He hasn't found that yet. As a backup, as an heir apparent, whatever. He hasn't found it yet. But I'll tell you one thing about Chris Forrester. He will not grade on the curve. If he doesn't think that a tackle is worthy of the round that he's about to be drafted in, and all of these tackles are getting drafted 2-3 rounds earlier than they should at the minimum, right? Like all the tackles with any upside in this draft were off the board by round 4. Guys, we were talking about, you and me, Larry, in the 7th round undrafted free agents off the board within minutes of day 3 starting. And because you're just desperate. Just please, we're just throwing darts. We have no idea what we're doing. He won't change his grades. If he thinks you're in the 3rd round and they have a pick in the 3rd round, in the case of Dominic Pooney, they'll take you. But they will not take a 2nd or a 3rd round tackle in the 1st round because of position scarcity. They won't do it.
Well, you know what? Then, while everybody else is holding, flying flags that say Super Bowl champion, you can fly a flag that says, we get draft value. But go hang your draft value flag and see how that
But
flies.
let's just talk about the Super Bowl champions and their offensive lines. Is Jeff Stoutland really out here overdrafting guys for the offensive line, or is he a great developer of offensive linemen?
They just keep taking guys. They keep taking tackles. They took 3 tackles. They took Holland Pierce. They took Cam Thomas. They took Thomas. They took another guy. They took 3 tackles, and a couple of them make
I think they cut all 3 of them.
Guard.
But yeah,
Pierce is a guard now on their practice squad. But you have to keep. First of all, they're rare bodies.
Unquestionably.
Right? You don't find the reason that it's so hard to find tackles is they're not walking around. They're too big. There's too
tackle
much
that they took in the Patriots tackle, right? Like they didn't even like his body. They thought his arms were too short, but they still had to take him.
But
he's been fine.
You gotta have these guys. You gotta have them. Just as simple as that. And they're right now. The 49ers look pretty good right now.
Yep.
What is the biggest issue? The biggest issue is they don't have a 3rd tackle. And as soon as one of their tackles goes down, their quarterback is going down next. And I know what's going to happen, and I hope they know what's going to happen too, and I hope they are going to do something about it. All right, let's hit sleeper here.
Yep.
We tried to do it before. We couldn't do it before, but 49er Football on the Krug Show is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and, of course,
Buffalo,
sleeper picks for fantasy. Daily fantasy, where you choose 2 to 8 players, pregame or live, and pick more or less on their projections. And if you're new to it, use the promo code Larry, and you'll get a $100 deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit. The link's right there in the description. Terms and conditions apply. All righty, let's do this. What do you think? Miami and Buffalo on Thursday night. Let's take a look at Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah. What do we have besides
I
passing
think Tua
touchdowns?
Tagovailoa is really an overrated player. He does. I don't think he reads coverage, and so I think that I think I would go. I think I would go.
I don't think that matters against the Buffalo Bills.
I would go 300 passing yards less than.
I don't think that's an option. That'd be pretty juiced.
Right? Or we could go 250.
That looks like
we could
plus.
go.
Yeah.
Why don't we go 250 yards less than?
Okay, if we can do that, I'll do that.
Let's do that. Is that what that is?
I think it's over. I think you're picking over a certain amount of
pass yards. Okay. I don't want to go over. I don't want to go over.
I will say this: like passing touchdowns, like he's got to have one. I really don't like Buffalo's defense at all, and I thought that Miami had some level of competence after whatever the hell that was in week 1. So if we can get like a passing touchdowns bet on Tua.
Okay. We'll go Tua with 1 passing touchdown.
There we go. We're going big. I'll go over. I'll go 2. I'll play 2.
Okay. We'll go with.
Oh, you want to go with less? That's fine. It's your show, Larry.
Yeah, let's go with less than 2. Let's
awesome.
go with less.
Okay.
All right. Let's skip to another player.
James Cook over rushing yards.
Cook. Let's take a look at James.
More rushing yards. I don't care what the number is.
You think he's going to have a big night, huh?
I don't think they have much of a choice. Josh Allen took a pretty good hit in that game against the Jets.
64.5.
I take more.
More? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go more on that.
Got that contract. They're gonna feed him the ball.
Let's go Tyreek Hill.
All right.
Tyreek Hill's been hot, and I think they're going to look at him.
He's got ample people to burn in that Bills secondary.
I like over 61.5 receiving yards.
I'll play it. Yep.
They used to have lots of guys they went to, but it looks like they're starting to kind of feature Tyreek a little bit.
Waddle's awful. Can we do Dawson Knox over 12.5 receiving yards or more than 12.5 receiving yards? Because Dawson Knox had like a hell of a game as a blocker, and that just feels like something that Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, is going to want to reward by getting him the ball a couple more times.
That's interesting. Okay. So all he needs is 15 yards.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go more than 12.5 receiving yards on Dawson Knox.
Yeah. I think that they're going to want to get him.
Right,
they're going to draw up a couple plays for him. Let's put it that way.
So we've got 4 plays right now. We can win 4 to win 37.85, or we could try one more.
I'm down to try one more.
Let's try one more.
Where are you thinking? Keon Coleman anytime touchdown?
That might not be bad. What's Ray Davis at?
I saw 16.5 for Ray Davis at the bottom there. I kind of like the more there too.
Yeah, I like that too because I think Buffalo's going to win, and they'll put the game away with Ray Davis. So let's go more than 16.5 rush yards. Yeah. Now we'll wager.
Now we're talking.
Now we've got it all together. All right, so
13.
We're betting 5 to win 67-35. Does that sound right?
That looks good to me.
5 to win 67-35. I like it. Big thanks to Sleeper. Remember, use the code Larry for 100% deposit match up to $100. Links right in the description. Terms apply. Helps support the show and gets you rolling on the #1 sports app. And I'll tell you, we won last week. We had a nice little win last week. So it's not like, it's one of those things where, oh man, we've never won. No, we actually have won.
Yeah, that's right.
Fairly regularly.
You won with Grant before last week with me. You're on a roll here, Larry. I think that's going to be the financial powerhouse of this operation. And
I don't see.
Kevin's getting paid this month off of Sleeper.
Yeah. Let's see if I have it here. I can check.
Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So you don't need to rub it in my face.
No, this is the last one we did for week 2.
Yeah.
We had Mac Jones more than 203.5 passing yards. He went for 279. We had Alvin Kamara over 50.5 rush yards. How low was that? That seems really low.
That's a good take.
The one we lucked out on was this one. Pearsall. We went more than 55.5 receiving yards. He had 56.
That's a good line.
And CMC, we went less than 81.5 rush yards.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he had 55.
So we bet
5. We won $39.40.
Look at you.
There you go. So it was a good week. I'm really having fun with Sleeper. So it's a lot of fun. And then also it's one of those things where, you got a little bit of something to watch for in some of these other games. All right, let's jump to the defense.
Okay.
You were talking up Mikael Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I was making fun of the fact that you were giving a guy that has no stats at all a B-.
Yep.
But you know what? What would you grade him this week?
B+.
Stop.
No, it was like an A. It was like an A. He was. Here's the thing: the tape was actually like eerily reminiscent of the Seattle game. It just had a little bit more flash, and it certainly took off some of the rougher edges, which existed unquestionably. It was a little bit simpler. It was a lot of 7 technique. Wasn't bumping him inside as much, but it was him just pushing back his guy again and again and again. He was doing that against Seattle, and he wasn't pushing him into the right place, but he's still winning the reps. Like if you were to watch the one-on-one rep, he was winning the reps, and he just won reps against the Saints. He still has no moves. It doesn't matter if the guy can come along for the ride and run directly into the lap of the quarterback. He was really solid. I mean, he was really solid. All that to say, Nick Bosa had about as good of a game as I've ever seen a defensive end have. He was unbelievable in that contest. And I don't think that those two things are disconnected at all. I think that having Michael, who will set the edge consistently, and who I know has had it drilled in and was drafted because of his ability to set the edge, and they told him that, and they have been adamant about set the edge, set the edge, set the edge. We don't need you to get the quarterback. We don't just set the edge. Having that, demanding double teams, moving him around the formation. Bosa looks as good as I've ever seen Bosa through 2 weeks, and I know that the numbers won't reflect that, and he probably won't win Defensive Player of the Year if this extrapolates out, but Nick Bosa is absolutely at peak level of Nick Bosa right now, and I think it's because their defensive line has a bunch of different bodies, and in particular one body who's just going to set the damn edge on the other side.
On draft day, I mean, I would say that Mikael has one guy he really should thank, and that's Bryce Huff. Because with Bryce Huff, Mikael can do what Mikael can do. Right. Without Bryce Huff, he'd be an underdeveloped edge rusher, probably not getting tons done. Yeah. Here's Bryce Huff, by the way. I'm sharing the screen on this.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly. This is the final play.
This is the final play.
Yeah. It was unbelievable.
And this is Huff just comes firing out of a cannon here. And it's just like, look how fast he got in here. This was one of the fastest rushes of any edge person in the league.
This was the fastest sack in the NFL this year.
Fastest sack so far. 2 hands on the ground. 1, 2, 3. He's up the field. Boom.
I mean, he didn't even need to bend. He was already there. By the way, I mean, the other thing too is look at Aquanu and look at Bosa on this play. They're right there too. I mean, who wants the sack? Huff was the fastest, but they were all going to have the sack, and that was Aquanu's unquestionably his best rep of the game. He didn't actually have a particularly good one after a really encouraging performance in Seattle, and they did give him more snaps. He didn't make the most of them. Huff has been fantastic. You were touting him up as the best pass rusher that they've had opposite of Bosa since Bosa's been here. Hard to argue that point in any way, shape, or form right now because he is an elite pass. I mean, Huff is a great pass rusher. What stood out to me is he's so good against the run, too. Who saw that coming?
I mean, I didn't factor that in at all. But I will say this about Bryce Huff. You know, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's a D-line coach, and we're talking, and this is months ago. This is like in March leading into the draft when I was going through all these, James Pierce and Green and all the different guys. Right. And I told him, I said, hey, they really want an edge setter, early down guy, but they want a guy that they can move around. They don't like the smaller guys. They don't like guys with character flaws.
No.
So they want a guy who's 260, 270, and also isn't a bad guy. They don't want to have, they had the Ray McDonalds. They've had the Alden Smiths. They don't want that anymore. They don't want these guys to have to be babysat. They want higher character guys that are real guys. And they also want a bigger bodied guy. And he said, you know what? If you want to take advantage of Nick Bosa in a wide 9 alignment, the traits that you need on the other end is you just need somebody who's just a phenomenal speed rusher, because speed is something that doesn't really slump. And he's like, if you in that kind of an alignment, if you can bend the edge opposite Bosa, Bosa's job becomes so much easier. And he's like, speed. I would go with speed over everything. I'd go with speed over moves. I'd go with speed over size. I'd go with speed over power. If I could put somebody opposite Nick Bosa, I would go with the speed rusher. And it was interesting to me because I was thinking, the best guy that they've had is D Ford. And sure enough, D Ford was older, but he was a speed rusher.
He had one thing. That's what he did.
He was a great speed rusher. So and it really was Bosa's best year.
They tried it with Ebukam after him. He didn't have any speed left. And then they certainly tried it with Floyd, and I'm not sure why they thought he had speed left. But, if you hadn't watched him in 4 years, he was still that kind of guy.
The Niners, once again, we could talk about this and complain about the front office again. But ultimately, the Niners, their barometer for what they're looking for is very basic. And I asked Kyle Shanahan about it, and he said, hey, we have guys that we liked in the draft, and then we have guys that we liked that when we played them head to head. So what happens if you just a good player pops free on a team you've never played? You don't have anything. So it's like, and sure enough, that's what Leonard Floyd is. Leonard Floyd was in the division. And they had guys they liked in the draft, and then they had guys
when he was in the division that he
they
left.
Got guys that did well against the Niners, and that's why they went with him. But they needed to go with a speed rusher. They have Bryce Huff. It's maximized Bosa. It's allowed Mikel to play inside.
Absolutely. And
to me, if there's one revelation, and this is a true revelation because we didn't see this in the preseason. Yetur Gross-Matos is obviously a favorite of John Lynch's. And he didn't play all summer, and I wasn't sure what the hell he was even going to do. A lot of my projections didn't even have him on the roster because I thought, well, he's probably not going to PUP him,
or it just
PUP him. They're going to cut him. They're going to injury settlement him. These whatever.
But they did a lot of finagling to make sure that he stayed around. I see it now.
They did, and now I see it too. It's like this 4-man front that they put out there right now, I think is revolutionary. Now, people say, Krug, come on, pump the brakes. What I mean by that is this: the new way of doing it's kind of like new NBA versus old NBA, new NFL versus old NFL. Why do I make that comparison? In the old NBA, you could have a 3-guard alignment of shooters.
Right.
And then you would have 2 big guys, and they could be non-shooters.
Right.
You could have them both on the floor at the same time. You could have 2 non-shooters with 3 shooters, and you'd be just fine. And then the Warriors came along, and all of a sudden it was like, wait a second, no, you can only have 1 non-shooter on your roster on the floor at a time. Only one guy.
Have that.
You can have Draymond Green, or you can have this other center, Trace Jackson Davis. We can't have them both.
Right.
Well, that was the thinking. Now we're getting to a point where everybody in the NBA, for the most part, that's going to play any significant minutes, has to be a shooter. That's and now, how do I make the comparison in the NFL? The NFL used to have Evan Anderson's. I mean, heck, he's on the Niners right now, in the practice squad. Jonathan Hankins, these massive 2-gapper, run stuff only guys who can't rush the passer at all, guys who couldn't sack the quarterback. If the quarterback lost one of his legs and was in a wheelchair, they couldn't sack the quarterback. Those guys are no longer in vogue in the NFL. It's like I think the Eagles did it a few years ago, not this last Eagle team, but the team that won it a couple years ago. They kind of showed that the modern NFL defensive line either has to have only one non-pass rusher at most, or preferably all four guys have to be able to rush the passer. Now, fast forward to the Niners this summer. We haven't seen Yatir Gross-Matos at all. We didn't see Mikel hardly at all. Huff and Bosa, was a new phenomenon together.
Yeah.
And now here we are, week 1, and the 4-man NASCAR, call it their sub-package line, is Yatir Gross-Matos and Mikel inside and Bosa and Huff on the outside. And it looks unbelievable. Yeah. It looks incredibly dynamic. The hard thing about having a line like this is having guys who can really bend the edge. They have that. And then having guys that can really rush the passer, despite the fact that they've got long limbs and good size. And they have that in Mikel and Yatir Gross-Matos. And to me, this has got to be right, if not at the very top of the list, it's close to the top of the list for what I'm most excited about with the Niners. I was very skeptical on Mikel because I didn't want to see the Niners go for a pass rusher that can't rush the passer. And that's what I see from him as an edge guy.
That's fair.
But you know what? When Robert Saleh, I think it was last week, said to us, hey, really what we're looking for, we drafted him with a plan. And it's like, I think I would have had a different take on draft day, Dieter, if I had known that it was going to be Mikel and Huff. But I didn't. And I was thinking, okay, Mikel's going to be your guy opposite Bosa. And he doesn't have much of a rush plan. It just seems like he's going to get stonewalled. And I don't know about that.
If you had to play him consistently as a 7 technique, it would get rather.
What would he get? What would his sack total be?
3 or 4. He'd run into him, right? Like it would just be. He would get a lot of pressures. He would break up a lot of pockets, but it wouldn't be. That's when the stats would matter because it's not a one-trick pony. That's unfair because of the complexity of what it is he has to do and the double teams he's taking on and all that stuff. But it wouldn't be classic defensive end. It would only be for dorks like me who really like it when you set an edge. And Nick Bosa would be talking him up left, right, and center because of what that would do for him in the same way that what Huff can do for him. You're right though. Having the variety, I think, is the biggest takeaway for me. I've been working on this theory. Maybe it's fully fledged at this point. I haven't really expanded on it. That the offensive line needs to be like starting pitching. You need one really good one, and then everyone else just needs to hold the line, right? Like you can have someone who's kind of shitty, but can't be that shitty, and then everyone else just needs to get you some innings, right? You need to be able to trust them to go out there and just perform. Defensive lines need to be like bullpens, which is, you got your closers, you got your fireballers at the back end and all that, but you need a bunch of different looks. You need a bunch of different types of bodies, bunch of different rushers, bunch of different defenders, just a bunch of different stuff you can throw because as you were alluding to, or perhaps even saying flat out, the modern NFL defense has caught up to the modern NFL offense. And we think about a Kyle Shanahan offense, which is proliferated everywhere, and a term that gets brought up a lot by defensive coaches is that it's positionless. Well, defense is becoming positionless at this juncture, and that's certainly been that way at the college level for a while. And now we're starting to really see it at the NFL level with these amoeba defenses and these tight fronts, and linebacker, taking that Mike Zimmer linebackers in the A gap and really taking it to the full iteration, and people blitzing from everywhere, and everything going full Flores, everything going full Mike McDonald, and the Niners are able to do that with the kind of players that they have on this defensive line. If the situation calls for just an absolute mountain of a human being to just hold, and I don't know if he can quite do this yet, but just hold in the middle. Here's CJ West, not a mountain of a man, but he holds in the middle. And then here's Alfred Collins, who can maybe give you both of what you really want. And I was very tough on Collins just off of the broadcast.
I thought he had a good game this week.
He had a very good game. I was wrong about the broadcast. Because he's so big, it looks like he's getting caught up in a bunch of stuff from that camera angle. When you watch it from the end zone, you actually see he's doing a really nice job. Now, there was a lot of bust on it. He had a lot of bad reps, but he had some really, really good ones as well. And I see the vision there. And I'm going to give it plenty of patience because if that ever hits to the ability it could hit, it is a spectacular football player, but it's going to take time given everything that he's got going on right now.
I'm going to show you some highlights of Collins because I think this is maybe the best sequence I've ever seen with the Niners. As far as his movement ability, as far as his ability to get off of blocks, not wired, to me, the thing I'm looking at is the feet. The feet keep moving.
Yes.
In the summer, he would stop moving the feet.
And that happened in this game, too, to be fair. I mean, this is a great highlight package, and he deserves all the accolades he can get for this highlight package because it was really good stuff. But there were also plays where he went full Kinlaw, got too high in his pad level, and went for a ride. I mean, it looked like he was on ice skates in New Orleans on several reps. And those were the ones that really stood out to me in the broadcast because, again, it's so clear and so obvious. So much of the great stuff that he's doing here, not terribly clear and obvious. Like that play on Kamara there that you just showed, like you don't see how great, or this one here, like you don't see how great that is when you're on that sideline camera.
Yeah, I think this last one, or let's see, this first one, I think there's one of these shows his pressure. He had one pressure.
Oh, the one that this one.
Here.
That was unreal. He was a half second from having a highlight that would have made him a Niner legend because he would have perhaps killed Spencer Rattler. He is so big, and he was moving. He was good. But like this last rep, you see him, he goes on the ground. Like it's a good rep. But he was also kind of, it was a double team, so he's getting pushed back. There were a couple of reps where one-on-one he was getting driven back a lot. It's not to take away from anything because he hadn't shown any of this. I hadn't seen any of this at any point before. And the fact that this exists is awesome.
Yeah, I think people have been too critical of Collins. I got to be honest because I think he's just, people were expecting him to just be this ready-made guy. The Niners went for the biggest lump of clay.
Totally.
And now it's up to Chris. It's like they just put it on Chris' desk. Hey, Chris, here's this gigantic lump of clay. Make a sculpture out of it.
Right.
And now he's going through it. But I don't know. Have you had a chance to talk to AC yet, Alfred Collins?
No.
He's an interesting guy. One, I mean, you feel like you're talking to a kid. He's a jumbo kid, right? Yeah. And that shouldn't surprise me because he was in college last year.
Right.
But what's really also apparent is that he knows that he's not there yet, and he's trusting his coaches, and he's trusting guys in that room. Like one of the things I talked to him about last week was that, he knows Bosa's had this great career, and that Bosa's all about his diet, 365 days a year.
Oh yeah, Bosa talked about this too. Yeah,
and Collins is basically trying to steal from him, and trying to get some information. And Bosa's more willing to share now than ever before.
Did you hear Bosa's quote about that?
No, I didn't.
So
when did he talk about it?
Presumably, I don't know. It was last week for sure. 2 weeks ago. And he's like, I went in. He was talking to the nutritionist, and he was trying to lose weight, and it's pretty easy. So I told him how. I just thought that was, it's like, Nick, we're not all, you want to talk about, clay, like we're not all chiseled out of marble here, buddy. Like it's really easy. Like no shit, it's really easy. Less calories in than calories out. Like it is functionally easy. A little bit more complicated than that for us mortals over here. But I did think it was hilarious how nonchalant he's like, it's really easy to lose weight. I told him how to do it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Well, but
you're not wrong. You're just an asshole.
There's so much. I'll say this. I wasn't sure. And you and I talked about this at camp.
Yeah.
I don't know that Robert Saleh was sure. I don't know that Gus Bradley was sure.
They openly talked about
Kyle
it.
Shanahan was sure. I don't know anybody associated with the 49ers was sure about what this defense was going to look like when the bullets started flying for real
100%.
and the games started happening for real, not preseason, not partial games, or you play a series there.
An actual game plan built for the other team that you're playing, those teams trying to destroy you. Yeah, you don't know. You have no idea. There's no way to really prepare for that.
We didn't know what we were going to see, and I gotta say that I'm pleased with what we're seeing. Oh, yeah. Now, some people would say, hey, they gave up 21 points to the Saints. Okay. If you want to take that perspective.
I think Spencer Rattler's like good. Like the
So
Saints,
Robert Saleh. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, he might have oversold it a smidge, but yeah, like Rattler made some plays in this game, and he's going to keep making plays, and he's going to keep getting better. And like Kellen Moore just won a Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator. I'm not the biggest Kellen Moore fan, but like he's not an idiot. They ran some really good plays. I mean, some of them were technically cheating that didn't get called, but that's neither here nor there. They watched the film on Seattle. They saw how Robert Saleh attacked, and they countered that pretty effectively in this game. And that's kind of the biggest part. So Saleh's put two really good tapes together here to start the season, right? And it's of course the players that are getting it done. You can't just scheme your way into a good defense, but he's done some really good scheming on top of players, really performing well. Now can you adjust off of the adjustments that these other teams, the more tape you get, the more that you have to protect against, and the more you're going to get attacked in your weak points. And I'm really interested to see, but I mean,
by the way,
right
just
temperament.
Here are the numbers on this thing. We have a new stats guy on the Krug show.
Hey, who's that?
Kevin.
Is it Kevin?
It's not Kevin. So I have actually hired a statistician guy who goes through and just gives me everything. I mean, I have all the numbers. I'll send you some of this information, Dieter, because I think you'd like to see it.
Yeah. No.
And so, one of the things he did, just one of the many ways that our statistician breaks it down, is what did the defense do? Niners defense. They had 34 four-man rushes, and they had 5 hits on the quarterback and 2 sacks in those 34 rushes. They had 6 plays where they sent a 5-man rush.
Right.
They didn't get any hits or sacks on those 6.
Yeah,
they sent 2 plays where they actually sent a 6-man rush.
Yeah, I know those.
So they had 8 total blitzes and 34 4-man rushes. In the 8 total blitzes, they had 1 hit on the quarterback and 1 sack. On the 34 non-blitzes where they rushed just their front 4, they had 5 quarterback hits and 2 sacks.
Yeah.
So I think those are kind of interesting numbers, to be honest. There were 70 defensive plays, 42 were pass plays, 28 were run plays for New Orleans.
Right.
And the Niners, blitzed a total of 8 times and went 4-man front 34 times. So, I think those are somewhat interesting numbers. I do think that Robert Saleh has a real skill for, the guys really, there's a saying, it's not the way you scheme the play. It's the way you play the scheme. Right. And it's a little play on words, but what basically
it's good tautology.
It's basically what that whole point is. It's not about the X's and the O's. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes. It's not about the scheme. It's about the players.
Yeah.
But Robert understands that if you can simplify the scheme, your players are going to play faster. If your players play faster, they're going to play better. And so that's a big part of what he does. So there's a underlying simplicity to everything that he does defensively. And I think that is comforting to his players and allows a team that has some very young players to not get bogged down in the details. I thought we were going to see a 49er defense, Dieter, that was kind of reading, reacting, slow. Yeah. Everything was a little slow to rotate, slow to get over, slow to, and instead I'm seeing them using Fred and D and Pinnock, and they're so good at the line of scrimmage, especially Fred and Pinnock, in disguising blitzes. There was a play, and I don't know if you've seen the All-22, but there was a play in this game where Fred Warner gives a look like he's playing in the box, and he's playing the run in the box. Yeah. And then at the snap, he shoots over to guard the receiver, the tight end in the flat, and he got a PBU.
Yeah,
he got a PBU on a ball in the flat from the quarterback to the tight end, and he slapped it away, and he literally was playing in the box as a run defender, giving a very heavy run kind of a look, run defense look. And yet, no, they dropped somebody else into the run defense, and he shot out against the tight end. And it would be one thing if he was just in the area to make the play. No, he got his hand on the ball and PBU and incomplete pass. So I'm seeing some a lot of people have been critical about Pinnock. I see some really special things with Fred and with Pinnock that are enabling Robert Saleh to give opposing teams a different look pre-snap than they're getting post-snap. And you know that just slows offenses down a little bit. Just makes them pause a little bit.
I mean, this is the wave of the NFL. The Niners are late to this, for what it's worth. I mean, this is the way that Brian Flores coordinates his defenses, that Mike McDonald coordinates his defenses, that Jonathan Gannon coordinates his defenses. Vic Fangio's even gotten in on it. I mean, the best of the best are playing positionless football where we're showing you one thing and we're doing something, and now they're even adding another layer onto it. And it's about how many different alignments can you throw. And it's a direct response to the Shanahan outside zone system where everything is predicated on creating conflict for defenses. Defenses have decided, and defensive coordinators have decided, you know what? We can just stand here and get gashed repeatedly because we're just going to take it, because we're going to run our sets. And this is the Steve Wilkes thing. Like, no, we run what we run, and we'll stop it because we're better than them. It's like, no, you're not. The game is built for offenses. So what defensive coordinators have figured out over the last 5 years, and I think is now to the point of ubiquity, is you can't put me in conflict if I'm putting you in conflict. Like, we could do the conflict game too. And offenses have keys that they're reading. Quarterbacks have things that they're looking for. And we are going to muddy the water. And yeah, we'll get burned, but we're going to burn you just the same. And it's an absolute pleasure to watch. Brock has had a tremendous amount of problems with it, if we're being frank. And Kyle has had problems with it. And it is now ubiquitous. And I was just so thrilled because this is the antithesis of the Robert Saleh theory. Now, I won't pretend as if I'm watching Jets tape. I'm not that kind of a masochist to the depth where I can say what Robert Saleh's evolution had been as a defensive play caller and coordinator. But when he was with the Niners, it was rush 4, drop 7, into a cover 3, and sometimes, if he was feeling saucy, a cover 4 zone. And he would just win because he had one of the great defensive lines in modern NFL history, winning all the time. So it didn't matter. How are you supposed to complete passes against a 7-man zone coverage if you only have 2 seconds to throw? That was the theory. And it fell apart at times, but it was also enough to get them to a Super Bowl in 2019. This is not that. And I know that they were a bit more basic in this game, but having a kid like Marquise Siegel out there who they have thrown and put into every possible position. Mykel Williams is dropping into coverage in the Seattle game, playing inside, playing outside, playing linebacker at times. This amoeba defense, this positionless defense, so encouraging to see Saleh use it. And also, they have the players to do it because D. Winters has been so good, because you have a Fred Warner on your team, because you have Siegel and soon Malik Mustafa in the secondary, and you have really strong corners on the outside. You can get funky with it, and I just think it's so encouraging that they've started at this point, because I thought that in the best case scenario, they'd end the season looking like they look now. But if this is the baseline, the sky is the limit for this defense as this season progresses, of course, with injuries being the ultimate caveat to all of this.
We're brought to you by Habis Law, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. If you're a Bay Area resident or if you're watching us from around the country, there's a team that donates blood. Hot Yoga Republic in Mill Valley is teaming up with Vitalent for a blood drive September 25th and 26th at their studio in the Strawberry Village Shopping Center here in Northern California. Here's the deal. Roll up your sleeves, give blood, save a life. Every 2 seconds, somebody needs it. There's accident victims. There's kids in chemo,
so
moms
important.
in childbirth, real people, our people, Bay Area people, Northern California people who need this blood. And if you can't make it to Mill Valley, no problem. Visit hotyogarepublic.com and you'll find Vitalent donation sites all over the Bay Area. That's hotyogarepublic.com. And a huge shout out to our friends at Habis Law for backing this. Omar Tariq and their whole team, fierce, relentless, and always fighting to make it right for the Bay Area community. I don't talk about it a lot, but my deceased father was worked in the San Francisco City Attorney's Office for 40 years and made law his life, his professional life, and went to USF Law and was a very respected lawyer for years and years. My brother followed in his footsteps, went to USF Law, and now is a judge up in Sacramento in Superior Court. My sister followed in his footsteps. She went to Hastings and then is living in Connecticut and has practiced law. And so, my dad always used to say, hey, you know what? The difference between a good lawyer and a bad lawyer is the difference between success and failure, the difference between winning and losing. We're talking like right now about players, right? And good players help you win. And if you don't have good players, you lose. Well, in life, you don't want to lose. You want to win. And if you're trying to, take down an insurance company who's not willing to pay you what you should be paid, you need a little help. And that's where Habis Law enters the picture. 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. They're Bay Area people. They're really great lawyers. And I'm absolutely proud to be associated with them. So big fans of Habis Law. 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. That's their slogan. They're everywhere. They're partnered with the Giants, San Jose State, Santa Clara. And they're really, they really do great work. They're great personal injury attorneys, and I can't recommend them any higher. So if you absolutely need a lawyer, you absolutely need a good one. And Habis Law, go there, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. Let's finish up on the back end of the Niners defense and the linebackers. I thought Fred Warner maybe, Dieter, had crested the hill, and we were going to see the downside starting this year. And it's obviously coming. As they say, Father Time is undefeated. But it ain't coming now.
No,
he's playing
unbelievable.
Absolutely. Between D. Winters playing the best football he's ever played, and Fred Warner playing the best football he ever played.
Fair enough, yeah.
Nick Martin, who is a very good player, has been inactive for 2 weeks, and I expect him to be inactive probably for a few more weeks, and he might not get his opportunity for several weeks. But right now, the 49er duo of Warner and Winters are really playing incredibly fast because they are fast. I think Fred's the best coverage backer in the game.
No question.
But they're also been in this defense and their assignment sound and they know where they're going. So like D. Winters has never looked faster. He's doing the things now that he did at TCU that earned him the MVP of the national semi against Michigan. He looks phenomenal. Give me your thoughts on the Niner linebackers.
Well, there's a third one we got to talk about. Jair Brown is now
Jair Brown, who's really a safety, but
been playing him as a big nickel, a Sam.
A lot of people gave him up for dead. I don't.
As well, they should have. He was ass, Larry, for the last 2 years. It was brutal. It was a tough watch, and you kind of wondered how it all went to hell so quickly. Given that he came out and he looked pretty good, right? He gets thrown in that Tampa game, gets the interception back in the day.
He's had 3 different coordinators in 3 different years,
and he holds on to some of that. We'll leave that at that. His frustration has been noted on that front. And listen, he had a shot in the preseason this year to take Jason Pinnock's role, and he didn't even come close to taking it. They were shopping him around like nobody's business before cutdown day, but they didn't want to, much like with the Jake Moody, they didn't want to give up what they thought was really good talent and someone taken with some significant draft capital, to be fair. They figured we can figure out something for him. We can definitely make him work on special teams. And I think they finally found a role for him. And it goes back to having, like Eric Reed, they did this with way back in the day. They did this with Huff. Tarvarius Moore, you might remember from 2019. They did it with Jimmy Ward for a small stretch in 22. This star position where, okay, yeah, we want to be in base, but we can't, especially back then, and in this game in particular, because it was an 11 personnel team with some read option stuff, especially back in the day when that was ubiquitous around the league. Like, yeah, you want to play base. You want to play 3 linebackers. You want to be heavier. You want to, have 7 in the box that you feel are good in the run game. But you can't do that when you have 3 wide receivers spread out. So this is the happy median, and I think he looked really good in that role. I know it was only about 7 snaps, but I thought Jair Brown really stood up well in that situation, and they kind of threw some stuff at him there, the Saints did. So very encouraged by that front. There's nothing that I can say that hasn't already been said about Fred and D. Winters. I'm not ready to pretend that D. Winters is Dre Greenlaw 2.0, but it sure looks like it. If he showed up wearing 57 next week, I wouldn't bat an eye because it looks a lot like 57. They're playing out of their gourds, and they're doing it with a defensive line that, for all the encouragement, is still figuring itself out. Right? I'm so wildly impressed by them. I'm so impressed with Siegel. Pinnock is a good enough football player that you want to move him around. There is some vulnerability there that I can't quite put my finger on watching him. Renardo Green is a hell of a football player. He did not have a good game against the Saints. I don't recall noting Diamador Lenore once in yesterday's game, and for a cornerback, that is the highest compliment one can give. Now, I might have missed it, to be fair. I think that this secondary, and I don't know if we're considering linebackers secondary, but modern NFL, maybe they should be, is in such a good place right now. And for you to have a defensive line that you feel is really turning into something, and then to have these players behind it, this is why I can't help. Every part of my body is cynical and skeptical and negative. And even I'm like, oh boy, this Niners defense could really be something special. I know it's against the Saints. I think the Saints are better than people give them credit for. That's not to say that they're good. And I know it was the Seahawks in week 1 and they were figuring all their stuff out. Arizona is going to be a hell of a challenge, but I think this team is up for it. And if they can put together a really good tape against Arizona and the power that they come at you with, because that is, for Kyler Murray being the head of the snake there, that is a big, strong, powerful offensive football team. They're going 3 tight ends. Their wide receivers are big and strong these days. James Conner is a battering ram. Trey Benson is awesome. It's just Kyler as a little guy out there. If they can deliver the force that they've shown in the first 2 games against Arizona, I can't put a limit on what they could be. And I think that, Seattle has a chance to be the best defense in the NFL. Arizona's a really good defense. The Rams' defense is extremely talented, though their secondary is totally suspect and is going to burn them 10 times out of 10. Philly's defense, I don't want to go through all the great defenses in the league, but the Niners will very much be in that conversation at the end of the year if this current trend continues. And that's easier said than done, to be sure. But I don't know how anyone could be pessimistic about this Niners defense right now with the way that they're playing.
They look good. They really look good. 2 last quick thoughts, and then we'll bolt for the door. I'm going to jump a flight in about 90 minutes.
Oh, damn. Okay, I'll be fast. That's on me.
In about 90 minutes, we'll leave, actually.
Out of Louis Armstrong. It's good. They changed the airport. It's much nicer now, let me tell you.
It is nice. We went to Caesars tonight and watched the Giants game and watched the Raiders and the Chargers.
My condolences for watching the Giants.
8K screens. I mean, it was awesome. And the Caesars, the sports book in Caesars is phenomenal in New Orleans. It's just fantastic.
That's good to know.
All right, let's finish with this. The 49ers are 2-0. Mm-hmm. Who do you most credit with that 2-0 start?
The coaching staff. I mean, is that too vague? Is that...
Yeah, well, I mean, Kyle?
No, I mean, I thought Kyle had an awesome game plan in week 2. It was not as awesome in week 1. I thought Brock bailed them out of that game, to be frank. He also kind of put them in that bad situation, to be equally fair. But it was a bit formulaic in week 1. So I think it's Robert Saleh. I think it's Robert Saleh and his defensive coaches having this defense ready to play at a high, certainly above average level to start the season, when even he was trying to set expectations in a realistic manner, saying like it's going to be a roller coaster. We got a ton of kids. We're going to be playing 5 rookies. Like, you can't expect us to be good out of the gate. This is going to look ugly at times. And it's not, every defense is going to have its vulnerabilities and its moments of comedy. But this, it looked better in week 2 than it did in week 1, and it looked pretty damn good in week 1. So I like that trend. If two can be a trend, I got to give it to Robert Saleh. I mean, Nick Sorensen ain't doing this shit. Steve Wilkes ain't doing this shit. Like this is
Mr. Communication Breakdown or whatever.
I mean, this is A+ stuff from Robert Saleh, and it's two completely different game plans, as you noted, right? They were doing a lot of rushing 4 and dropping 7 yesterday. That's the opposite of what they did against Seattle, and to be able to be that bespoke and that specific and that dynamic on defense with this many kids. Whew, I mean, it helps to have Fred Warner. I won't diminish that, and it helps to have corners that you trust. I mean, it's really difficult to play high-level football without that Mike linebacker or an elite single high safety and two great corners if you're going to try to be funky with it. But Robert Saleh his defensive game plans have been, you used the term earlier, I'll use it here, revelation. They've been a revelation. And I imagine that there will be some counter punches coming up here without question, and it will be tricky for the Niners to show another level. But I've just been so impressed by how they've gone about their business. I don't care about the box score. It's about the force that they're delivering and the confusion and the closing winning plays that they put together. This defense has a spirit to it for the first time in a couple of years, and I'll take the lumps on a defense that's got some spirit, because those lumps can be ironed out, but it's really hard to build up a spirit and an identity for a defense as the season progresses with all injuries that are going to be coming their way. So let's give it to Robert Saleh.
That's a good call. I just, defensive football is so much about, rush and cover in the NFL, right? You got two games going on at once. You got the rush plan,
yep.
You got the coverage plan. And a lot of times teams have one or the other, but they're not wed together.
Totally.
They're not married together, and then there's breakdowns.
You could say the same on offense, right? Some teams,
sure.
Big issues that you watch with these offensive coordinators, they can never wed the run game and the pass game, and all these concepts feel very separate from each other. So
yeah. I'll credit Fred Warner. I think that first game,
totally.
And D Winters gets a little side note too, but I would go with those two guys. Yeah. Week 1, you had a Seattle team that absolutely gashed their opponents for over 5 yards a carry in the preseason, and they held that running game to 3 yards a carry.
And they looked awesome against the Steelers the next week, right?
Right.
They were awesome.
They're legit. So
they're awesome. Seattle's a real deal.
And then this week, you had Kamara, and they gave Kamara his. He got, he's a tough guy to tackle for sure.
Hell of a football player.
But to me, Fred Warner again and D Winters again, tone setting hits by Winters, all kinds of really smart play by Warner. They're getting rushed. The Niners defense is better. Now, I think Saleh's great, and I think Gus Bradley's a big part of it too. But it's really those two games. They're winning both those games. They're a better rush team than I thought, because I didn't really think Yatir Gross-Matos and Mikael Williams could be an interior tandem of note, and they are.
Yes.
Okay. And then I told
even against the run. Yeah.
I told you I loved Huff opposite Bosa.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect Bosa to be even that much better. So Bosa's at a high level. Huff's at a high level. You got those two interior guys at a high level. Yeah. So you have a much better rush than I thought you were going to have.
And they have an interesting rotation too. I mean, it's not just those four. I mean, Kalia Davis is coming in and making flash plays in both directions.
Kalia Davis has been great. Samo
gave you some pretty good reps in week 1. I mean, Jordan Elliott isn't being asked to play 45 snaps a game.
And when he's
in there, he's playing well. It's like, because, he's good in small doses. CJ West, I think, probably deserves more reps after this week. And now you see, we talked about Collins earlier, but I'd like to see more Alfred Collins if you can afford it. So it's not just then, hey, we got this NASCAR package or whatever you want to call it, where we can get after it, and we can also be stout if you want to speed us up in that. It's good enough to hold up in that in the run game if you're going hurry up. You also just have different bodies, and you're not losing that much when you go to your second units, especially on the interior. That's awesome, and that's a real surprise, because while I knew in training camp they had a lot of bodies, you didn't know if any of them could actually do anything. You thought that Evan Anderson could start or get cut, and it wasn't that extreme for everybody, but it was kind of that conversation for a lot of guys who didn't have draft capital or serious contracts. So just so impressive to watch this defensive line, and
they're better.
I think you're spot on with Fred though. Yeah,
I mean, they're better up front, but then they're also, if you don't have corners, you're not going to be good.
No.
But if you do have corners, you are going to be good. And they have 3 really good corners. Stout's a good corner. And there's no doubt that Renardo is a good corner. And there's no doubt that Lenore is a great corner. So they got 3 pretty good corners. Yeah. And then I liked what I've seen from Siegel and the safeties. But for the most part, I would say the coverage is tighter than I thought it would be. The rush is better than I thought it would be.
Yes.
And Fred Warner, instead of taking a step back, and we'll see, it's a long year, but he looks better than ever. And now he's got a tag team partner in Winters. And that, to me, that's the part that really surprised, the thing that has really jumped out to me is how much better this defense really does look. Last thing we'll go with before we bolt for the door is what has been in your mind the big surprise? Has there been a surprise of any kind? I know we're there at every practice and we're crunching every single factor. And so what surprises, Joe from Los Gatos maybe doesn't surprise you or I, but go ahead. We're also surprised by things often because it's, there's so many different players. What stands out to you as a surprise in 2 weeks?
I didn't think that Winters would be this good. The way that the Niners were talking him up, it felt like they didn't have any other option, like realistic option, so they had to keep talking him up. And some of the stuff that we were hearing, you hear other conversations about other players, and you're like, oh, so Stone Blanton is just totally awesome. Like, how am I supposed to take anything you say seriously here, Johnny Holland? Because Stone Blanton seems like a nice enough kid, but not a very good football player at the NFL level. Good at Mississippi State, but not at the NFL level. So it's great to pump up your guys' tires, but at a certain point you need some truth. So I just had no idea what D. Winters actually was. And every now and again in practice, you'd see something, you go, damn, that's pretty good. But we would say that in previous training camps, right? In every preseason, he'd make a flash play or two. His issue was he couldn't flip and tackle. He couldn't tackle because he had no form. And he was always a little bit late because he didn't see it. And while he could get there fast, he didn't see it fast enough to get into position. And then he would dive in with no arms, just trying to put a shoulder into somebody's oblique. And guess what? That doesn't work at the NFL level. I know that you see some corners get away with it every now and again. It's not a good strategy for linebacker play. He has not just been a step ahead and still that fast. His tackling has been so damn sure. And it's almost annoying to watch, Larry, because it's like you had this in you the whole time. You could have made yourself a tremendous amount of money, young man, had you just done this at any point before. But it's a great testament to and a great reminder of it takes some guys some time. And D has fought through a bunch of injuries, and I'm sure he's never felt like he really had his feet under him, and he's always been trying to, as Mike Tomlin says, catch up to the moving train when it comes to the season because of injuries. And then the season's on, and he's back in, but he didn't get any practice. D. Winters has not just been good, he's been legitimately great. And, he's really reminiscent of a Deion Henley for the Chargers, who's about as good as it gets at the linebacker position right now. I thought that he would be serviceable. I thought that it would be a market upgrade over whatever the hell they had last year at that spot. I thought it would be fine, and I thought fine would be good enough. He hasn't been just fine. He's been legitimately great, and to say it's a surprise is an understatement because it's so specifically great. There's just no flaw in his game that I can tell, and I would have been able to fill an hour with the flaws in his game and acknowledging his positives, but an hour with the flaws in his game going into the season, and he just ironed them all out. And the Niners are so much better for it.
Yeah. My biggest surprise is I don't understand why John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan went so long with Jake Moody with the third most accurate kicker in the history of the NFL on the beach all summer, waiting for a job. You're watching this, you're answering all these questions. You seem super frustrated and annoyed by having to answer all these questions. And you're trying to back this guy. You're trying to tell us that it was a legitimate competition. You're trying to tell us how how he's going to be your guy for years. You're trying to like speak it into existence.
Yeah.
That this is the right guy. And it's like, dude, how stubborn are these guys? It's like, so what? You wasted a 3rd round pick on this guy. It's a done
It's over
deal.
now.
Let's live in the present.
Yeah.
The guy you signed Pinheiro. Now, granted, he missed a PAT, but the guy's the 3rd most accurate kicker in football, and you went into the regular season with a shaky freaking kicker.
Yeah.
What if somebody else signed this guy, and then you had to go to the next kicker? I mean, literally, when you had somebody available that was as talented as Pinheiro and as successful and accomplished,
so weird too
Pinheiro,
that he wasn't even brought in for the competition, right? Like you went with Greg
it's
Joseph.
obviously money. It was obviously a money thing. It's like sometimes I just feel like the 49ers are just so ridiculous when it comes to the money.
Yeah.
It's like, did you not, do you think you're a contender? Did you not think you're a contender? If you do think you're a contender, then you spend some money. If you don't think you're a contender, then you don't. They obviously think they're a contender. They traded for Brian Robinson, but then you go into the regular season with a shaky kicker and you try to gaslight us into telling us that he's not shaky. Then you try to double gaslight us into telling us that they had a legitimate competition and that what we saw wasn't all of it. So we're supposed to just take your word for it that Jake Moody won this invisible competition. All the while you have Eddie Pinheiro and his 88%. Do you know what Eddie Pinheiro has made in the last 3 years playing for Carolina? 90%.
Yeah.
He made 90% of his kicks over the last 3 years. He's on the beach. You have the 3rd most cap room of any team in pro football, and you go into the regular season in a year where the margin, it's going to be tight as far as you're not a dominant team.
Yeah.
It's, you need every game, and you were willing to cough up games at the beginning of the year to prove your stubbornness.
But one time Kyle talked to his dad about it.
And idiotic that is. I mean, if they wind up losing to Seattle in week 1 because of Jake Moody and then missing out on a playoff berth by 1 game in a very competitive NFC, and all the while you could have had Eddie Pinheiro and his 90% makes in the last 3 years, and you just chose not to go that direction because you're trying to still force feed us your 3rd round failed draft choice.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that?
Is that surprising though? They've been doing it for a long time.
That's very pig-headed.
I don't disagree with that. I'm not sure it's surprising though.
That's rare. That's oddly stubborn.
Yes. Larry, I had a cottage industry on this with my columns for like a month. I'm aware.
You don't get a trophy for, having a 3rd round kicker, fulfill his potential. They were just so convinced that they had gotten one over on the league. They were just so convinced that they were so much winning
smarter.
the Super Bowl. Let's not be so tied to our individual evaluations, and let's just try to win.
Just go full Farhan.
I've gotten to a point where I get the feeling that they really would rather be proven right than win. I'd rather win.
To be fair, kind of hard for those two things to be mutually exclusive. Because if you're being proven right, you have winning football players. But I am with you that they want to do it their way, no matter what. There is a level of ego in play here that has existed. And by the way, you could say the same thing about Kyle's old man back in the day. It's his way or the highway. You don't want to do it my way? I'll leave. I'm done. But I'm going to get everything that I want because I'm the smartest guy who's ever existed. And he might have been right. His son might be the smartest guy that's ever existed. But, it only gets you so far.
Guess who writes articles telling you you're smart? People do after you win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick Sirianni's apparently a great head coach. I don't think they plug in his headset, but he won the Super Bowl. So he must be a good head coach, right?
I just think it's very bizarre, especially since the guy was super shaky last year and then came to camp and was shaky. And
they knew it was a problem, and they pretended like it wasn't.
He's not shaky. What? He's not shaky? I mean, it's like we're not living in reality.
To be fair, well, this isn't fair, but I do think that a lot of their public messaging about Moody was them trying to pump up his tires because they were so concerned about him losing his confidence. Should you be bothering to do that? No. You should just cut a kid who you think has lost his confidence. But they were trying to salvage a bad situation the way that they thought was best, which was wrong. And so they were saying stuff like, that game in Las Vegas was the greatest game I've ever seen from a kicker. And you're like, he missed a chip shot.
He shanked a 35-yarder.
He went in. Absolutely garbage, but then he bounced back with a half-empty stadium in the fourth quarter of a preseason. It's like, so clutch. That could change his career. It's like, there's never been lower stakes in the world than the fourth quarter of a preseason game in Las Vegas, Nevada. Like, no one cared. I had legitimately turned the game off. So, and I cover this team and watch all the reps. So the idea that, like, I wasn't watching. I didn't know it existed. I had started the stream. It was the fourth quarter of a second preseason game. Brock had been off the field for 3 hours. So the idea that was, I think that was just them, again, kind of doing a last-ditch effort, but it was embarrassing. I don't know if it was surprising because I kind of saw this coming from miles away that they were going to do this bullshit, but it was certainly embarrassing, and I hope that they're properly embarrassed by that whole saga and that they never do something like that again, which, of course, they absolutely will.
On our way out the door, our good friend, Grant Cohn.
Oh, yes.
Is asking a question.
Wonderful.
It's a great question. So I'm going to share the screen and let everybody see it.
Okay.
What the fuck happened to CJ Stroud? What happened to Stroud?
The offensive line. It's just absolute dog shit.
But it seemed like his struggles predate Tunsil moving on, right?
No, they just got Tunsil. Like that's. Oh no, I'm sorry, they got rid of Tunsil. Yeah, no, it was dog shit last year. So they said let's redo the whole thing, and then they somehow got more dog shit because if you're shopping on the market for offensive linemen, it's not like filet mignons on the menu. So their offensive line is just absolute shit, and you don't have to respect their run game because their running backs suck. And Stroud's a very sharp kid, but he's not the best short and intermediate passer. Like his ability is those deep. He throws a beautiful deep ball. So defenses are just like, we'll do our best to take away the deep ball. Can't do it all the time, and we're just going to make you. And this is what they did with Patrick Mahomes like 4 or 5 years back. It's like you're going to have to win via paper cut. And CJ Stroud's like, I don't even have time to make these intermediate throws. I have time to throw one way up in the air and hope it lands in the right spot. But, like, I don't have time to read progressions, and that's what you need to do on short and intermediate throws most of the time. So it's an offensive line issue. It's a third offensive coordinator in 3 years, and it's his skill set not evolving to reflect what is pretty simple defensive game plans that have been thrown against him. And that's my opinion.
I mean, it's a good answer. I don't have an answer. I just have a question on that one.
No, it's a fair question, to be fair.
Cakes and Pies says Larry.
Cakes and Pies,
what's up, man? How are you liking the Big Easy? You missed the Bay Area yet? I miss my wife and my other kids. But and I'll be back tomorrow. But no, I mean, I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. I don't do a lot of traveling, as you guys know. You see me almost exclusively in the studio. I'm not like JD. I don't go boots on the ground and go to everywhere the Niners go. It was really fun to travel with Kev. It was really nice. It was really fun to like go see a city that he'd never seen and take him here to a city like New Orleans, which is a great
world city, one of the great cities in the world.
Yeah, it really is. And so no, I've had a great time. Really, really enjoyed it. Went to LSU and Baton Rouge in Florida on Saturday. That was a hell of a time.
Oh, I didn't know you did that. That's badass. How was it?
Yeah. Oh my God, it was unbelievable. Dude, Death Valley is just.
Dude, I've never done that. I've been to Baton Rouge a bunch of times. I've never been to Death Valley. It was at night, right?
Yeah.
Fuck, that's awesome.
Place was rocking.
That's 10 out of 10, man. That's a bucket list thing.
It was unbelievable. It was absolutely unbelievable, and it was just a fun adventure to go down there and the whole deal.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
You had to watch the Niners. By the way, how was the Superdome for you, temperature wise?
Oh, the Superdome was beautiful this time. I thought the Superdome was so much improved from
They've done a
when
nice job.
it was in the Super Bowl when I was here for the Harbaugh Bowl.
Right.
The turf's better. It looks better. The scoreboards are better. The lighting is whiter. It's not as
Yes, it is.
before. It was yellowy.
It was very
It's
yellow.
now white and bright.
High Kelvin these days.
Yeah,
I prefer a low
great.
Kelvin at home, but at a stadium, I want that high Kelvin.
Oh yeah, it was great. And it's totally two different crowds. I mean, LSU's crowd and the Saints crowd are different crowds.
Yeah.
But man, it was amazing. And then just to meet all the different people that were so gratifying to meet so many people who were fans of the show and fans of the channel. And
yeah,
I mean, Dieter, I swear to you, Kevin and I had a seat in the press box, right at the because Kev
right under the air conditioner.
Kev bought a ticket, so we decided that we would go find some seats.
Yeah.
Well, it's sold out, LSU, Florida. So they have a sky area, like a sky lounge, and that's up top. And I'm like, oh, we'll just go up there. And so we went up there. We're standing there up top at the LSU game.
Yeah.
And I'm just standing. I'm watching the game. I got a baseball hat on. I'm not. I got a sweet LSU hat. Look at this hat.
Oh, let's see this. Oh yeah, that's the old Les Miles, baby.
Like that.
That is a good one. I mean, I don't like that because I went to Missouri, but like it is a nice hat. Objectively,
Missouri looked good this weekend too. I bet Missouri.
They got to play. They got to play the other Louisiana team, which
they covered.
Was a nice.
They covered for fun, and they routed. Missouri's covered 2 weeks in a row now for me.
Hey, you're going to do it again against South Carolina on Saturday, baby.
Really? I like South Carolina. Nick Harbor. Don't forget that name come draft time.
You don't need to tell me about Nick Harbor. I've had a file on Nick Harbor for the last 4 years, Larry.
Yeah,
Nick Harbor, if I had let me just say this now. You thought I was big on Michael Williams? Nick Harbor. I like guys with Y's in their first names, apparently. Nick Harbor's a freak, and if Nick Harbor doesn't work out, well, I'm not going to say anything ridiculous because it hasn't been all that great to this point.
Who's that safety they have, too? They have a safety. South Carolina's got a safety that is fantastic.
I know who you're talking about, SICKOS. I think
what
it's
the
SICKOS.
hell's his name?
They have a great defensive end. They have Sellers. They have Harbor. And then they have that safety. Oh, they have a linebacker, too, 7. I have the South Carolina file.
We got some of the greatest athletes of all time.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how bad they are at football.
Nicky Manwari. The safety that I'm talking about is Jalen Kilgore.
Yes, Jalen Kilgore. Oh,
Jalen Kilgore's a
They
baller.
have some legitimate. I don't know what they do in the muck of the Carolinas, but they produce some straight up produce some dudes, and they're big and mean and physical too. Just
some of the best athletes in the country.
Unbelievable.
Your school too, Missouri, gets a lot of good
sneaky. St. Louis and Kansas City produce a sneaky amount of prospects. Not enough to where we can self-sustain, but enough. We hold
Half Dead says, is Larry still in Nolans drinking Hurricanes and eating Gator Bites? Yeah,
what was the best thing you ate and drank?
We had some Gator Bites last night at Koshan.
Yeah. If done right, it's fine.
Oh, Dieter was so good. So good.
Oh, that's great.
We also had some amazing gumbo there.
Yeah.
We had a really good dinner with JD at Koshan.
Oh, Koshan! I heard that Koshan does an incredible Cuban sandwich next door at their little deli.
Yeah, at their deli. But yeah. I didn't get a chance to go to the deli. Noam Mazan. Sorry about that.
No worries.
He says, just to say thank you for your
great discussions. He enjoys them weekly.
I enjoy weekly.
We enjoy having you.
Yeah, absolutely. We got this one from Fuji Simeon. You were good, Larry. You would be considered arrogant only if you had attended Stewart Hall for high school. LOL. I went to Stewart Hall for grammar school. It is a private high school. It's very pricey. I couldn't afford to go there. Titus Moeller, Larry, likely your most profound insight fortified by repeated examples. A coach shouldn't have to tell a story to explain their depth chart.
That's a great line. Is that yours? That's good.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to tell backstories, then there's too many backstories. There's too much going on. Fuji Simeon says 49er bye week is week 16. Hope they make it healthy.
It's week 14.
I think it's earlier than that, isn't it?
No, it's week 14.
Is
It's first week of December.
Titus Moeller says we've been. Oh, there you go. That's a late buy.
That's a late buy. They could. They might have wanted the early buy this year. They get a mini buy after October 2nd, Thursday Night Football against the Rams.
All right, it's 2:00 in the morning. I better jet. But he says,
Yeah,
Titus Muller says, we've been kindred spirits on Purdy support, wanting Garrett Wilson and now being excited about Watkins. Whenever J-Dub debuts, I hope it's with Purdy so they can begin forming chemistry from completion number one. I appreciate that, Titus. I'm a big fan of Watkins, and I'm not just hoping. I know he's going to be good. Which is going to make all the run for Bourne and MVS look kind of dumb. But I think the 49ers are going to be surprised. They must be. Fuji says, "Whoops! Correction. Bye week is week 14." Sorry, Larry, I was wrong. What can I say?
It's late.
Bulky
it's late
voice.
time-wise. It's late on bye. It's all good.
It's okay. Hey, look at it this way: you sent 2 supers, and I appreciate both of them. Fuji says, "Sweeper winnings." They're
for filling up your Tahoe there, Larry.
I got rid of the Tahoe.
No.
Yeah, I got rid of the Tahoe.
Larry's making too much money. Couldn't be driving. To be fair, that Tahoe was beat to hell.
Yeah. I loved it, man. I loved that Tahoe, but I did sell it. I had to sell it.
How much did you get for it? $500?
So I went to CarMax.
Okay.
But it wouldn't pass the smog.
I bet it wouldn't.
And because it wouldn't pass the smog, they wouldn't buy it. But they offered me $1,400 before they found out that it wouldn't pass the smog. So I told my wife, I said, we have to. She's like, we're going to have to invest all this money in the smog, and we're going to be negative on this. I'm like, no. We'll sell it on Craigslist as is. And so I sold it on Craigslist as is for like $2,500.
And good luck to them when they need to register it.
Well, it's not my problem. It's like somebody else's problem.
You're right. You're not wrong.
And you know what? If you have a big family and you know how to work on cars, it needed transmission work. It's a great deal. I felt fine giving it to him for $2,500. The chassis alone is worth more. Okay. Jared says, I thought Bourne had a good game signed last week. I think he was productive. I just don't think he's special anymore. I think he doesn't separate. I wouldn't expect him to do much. Let's just say that. But you know what? Kyle likes guys that he knows. He knows this guy. There you go. Dom Peralta says, great show, Krug and Dieter. Keep rocking. Thank you, Dom.
Rock your way all the way to Louis Armstrong. My God, the Supers are out of control tonight.
Yeah, and Eves says apparently CMC made history to be the third player in history with 50 rushing touchdowns and 30 receiving touchdowns. Did not know that. It's good to know.
I'm going to guess Marshall Faulk was another.
Yeah, who else would
and
it be?
LaDainian Tomlinson. Those would be my 2 guesses.
Yeah. It's probably I was going to think somebody older school, but that's probably not true.
I'm going to bet that I'm right on that. We're going to look that up after this.
That's going to do it for us. Dieter, tell people if they want to follow you, where they can follow you, and how to go about doing that.
It's the Dieter and Hutch show every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday here on YouTube.com. You might have heard of it. At Dieter Hutch, you'll find it, and you can become an official sicko and get all the extra goodies, including video breakdowns and all that. But just come on in, hang out with us for a little bit. We'll be talking tomorrow about this game, and maybe I'll have a new point or two to throw Jake's way by that time.
Thanks to Habis Law. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle. Thanks to Sleeper. There's links in the description for all of our sponsors. We're back in the city tomorrow. Dieter, great to see you, bro. Always
you
great
too,
to
man.
stream
Safe
with
travels.
You. There were a bunch of people in the quarter that were like, dude, I love you and Dieter. So, dude, I had to share that with you. And
that's awesome.
And we're really fired up about streaming. We have a new night. It's Monday nights after the Monday Nighter. Tonight, we're a little funky with the travel and the whole deal. But, Dieter, great to see you, man. We'll see you soon.
Safe travels.
Thank you, Dieter. Thanks to everybody. Have a great night. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man